Greetings, gamers, and welcome to the 156th live stream from the MisfitGamersStudios. I'm your host, Vortex, and this is D&D Discussions. On today's episode, we have a new Artificer subclass coming in from Pokeniner called the Appraiser. Very interested in this one, not sure exactly what we're here to expect, because I would always think an Appraiser is more of something that you can do like a feat or proficiency, and also seems to be something that you would typically find in a rogue. So I'm really curious to see how an Artificer is going to be an Appraiser. My first instinct is it's going to be some kind of magical sense, being able to understand how much magic power is in something, but then again, that's not really something that D&D has baked into the core of RPG, because realistically, you always just kind of know default what the item is. So I'm really curious to see what this is all about. But yeah, other than that, I have no idea what we're about to get into. But before we begin, I don't think we have any other updates. We have a couple polls out right now.
Yes.
They're just hanging out in there. A couple more days. We have the community stream poll.
Yes.
Has 6 more days, but I'm pretty sure that's locked in at Rune Knight into a Warlock. That's what
Okay.
we're going to be doing for our subletting subclass.
Okay.
Unless somehow 4 more votes come in for the other. I'm pretty sure Rune Knight has it at 6-3.
I mean, theoretically, I found out anybody can change their vote.
Technically, you can go back in.
You can
and
go
remove-
back
yeah,
and change
you
your
can
vote if you
technically
desire
remove it.
to, but until the poll is over.
But yeah, so once that comes in, we will be able to solidify that, because we do have the community stream coming up on the 22nd, so not this Saturday but next Saturday. So 6 more days for the poll to close, and then we will have about a week to prep for that. Otherwise, we also have a fun poll out there in the polls channel for our emotes. We have about 12 emotes out right now, so we did a small poll to see what everybody's favorite emote is. We kind of get an idea of what direction we want to take the next set. We typically buy them about 6 at a time.
Sure.
So we have a couple ideas of what we'd like to see in the future, but I really want to see which ones are resonating with the community, which ones get used the most, so we can kind of plan for the next one. But otherwise, yeah, I think that's it. I think we pretty much, it's going to be a pretty chill month. We have the community stream coming up, so that's going to happen. It looks like Marches is already going to happen.
It's on its way.
2K away, so probably just one more like Hoilepa drop or Friday, and then Soul will have it. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Fair enough.
We already know that's going to happen, so we're just going to prepare for that. So what are your ideas? Just hearing about this subclass's name, Appraiser. That is such a broad term, but at the same time, for an Artificer, I feel like it either, I don't know, I want to say that it would like help me like immediately understand what it is, but at the same time, I'm trying to like stretch for, why would a whole subclass be based around something that what I would consider to be a feat, right? The ability to appraise something is a hard sell as an entire background.
Now, maybe there's a way for you to like use this in combat, like understanding your opponent's weapons and how they work can give you like an edge in battle or something like that. Maybe just the ability to be able to, like, I kind of look at it lightweight, having like an AI in your head and you just like know what stuff is. You can like see, oh, he's got like a short sword, or like I'm an expert when it comes to the knowledge set of like this entire field. And I don't know if this is going to go down the roads of like specifically like gemstones and stuff, because I do know a lot of the Artificer subclasses require you to have like a gem of some kind. Like one of their infusions is their servant. What's it called? I forget. It's basically you have like this little handyman, this little guy that can run around with you.
Right, like an unseen servant?
Yes, something like that. But it can like do stuff for you, but you need like a gem to like have it be the core of that. So I don't know if there's going to be a lot of other features in this subclass that are like centered around having these like gems and jewels that they might need to know, like how much it's worth, what it can do, what it can hold. So who knows?
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to think of. Like, I don't know how many different ways that you can take the definition of appraisal. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm trying to like really like stretch my understanding of like what else could I consider an appraisal, like
Right.
outside of knowing its value. Because you were talking about like being able to see an enemy's armor or weapon and know its value, and that immediately made me think of like a reverse Artificer, where normally you can infuse weapons to give them a bonus. Can you imagine being able to, like, if you could on touch, like take AC away from someone's armor or take damage away from their sword if you can touch it? Like,
that would be kind of wild.
that's, now I'm kind of
That
like,
would be kind of wild.
like, so I'm just trying to think of, like, again, when it comes to a subclass, because I'm also trying to think of, like, before we get into this, you know, what do you normally want from a subclass, right? You want a couple built-in features, but again, by default, the idea of appraisal, being able to understand the value of something, seems to be a general one time off feat. So I'm really trying to stretch my mind before we get into this on what else, if you were to give the appraisal feat, the ability to look at an item, handle it, and
Tell what it's worth.
obtain its value or ascertain its value, what else would you give to that if you wanted to consider that feat OP? Because that's what I'm trying to think of, right? If I'm going to turn this, what I consider a feat, into a subclass, how would I go one step further and make it
Right. Okay.
Other than being able to change its value, convince someone else of a higher value. In older editions, having things appraised, like having to go to somebody, pay money to have things appraised and actually have like certifications and stuff for that. I know that was an older edition thing, so I could see benefits to that, like getting around it. But yeah, I'm really curious what we're going to get from this. I was kind of hoping I'd be a little bit more inspired, right? Just by the name and by the concept, because you see a lot of Artificer stuff. But I'm at a loss of what can I give an Artificer, like, for a whole subclass, because Artificers get what, 4 or 5 like subclass feats. So I'm really racking my brain about what else can I do other than alter the value, get a better value of something, temporary. I mean, even if it could be like, items you handle can act at like 25% greater value or 50% greater value. So instead of having like a 1000 GP gem, you could have like, a 700 or even a 500. I don't know. Like,
right.
I'm trying to think of something like that.
They get 5, I think.
It's about five. Okay. So
5 upgrades throughout the.
Oh, what's going on, Pokeniner? Yeah, I'm really racking my brain because I think what's probably happening is I'm probably getting too stuck on like the definition of appraisal.
Sure.
I'm sure that that's probably more of a generalized vague term and not nearly as specific as I'm trying to make it. So that's where I think I'm losing it, is I'm taking it too literal and not taking a step back. So I'm hoping that this will inspire me to do the same thing with other definitions.
Okay. Fair enough. I appreciate that.
So to clarify certain things, Artificer subclasses follow 2 rules. They gain proficiencies with the unique tool set as their tools of the trade feature at 3rd, and they interact with that tool in some way magically. Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
Interesting. I did not know this was a
because I think we've done another Artificer where something similar happened, where it's kind of like packed weapon, right? Because I think you made that reference before, where it's kind of like their packed weapon, where their tool set becomes integral, almost like their focus.
So there's one called the armor, and they create a set of armor, and then they interact with that set of armor.
Correct.
There's the battlesmith, where you create a creature and then you interact with that creature.
That's right.
There's the artillerist, where I know you can create a little cannon that can operate as like different things as a part of its subclass, but I'm not quite sure about the alchemist. That's the only other one that I'm not. I don't have a lot of history on.
Okay, so we'll try to take that into account. Again, I'm really interested to see what.
I did not know that. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I'm really trying to figure out. Yeah, I don't know much about the Artificer in terms of fits, so yeah, we'll see. Let's see if we can make more sense of this as we go. All right, so. Oh wait, where did? Oh. There we go. All right, so let us begin with Pokeniner's submission of an Artificer specialist called the Appraiser. And starting with the description, in a world brimming with treasures and mystical gemstones, the Appraisers hold a special place. In a realm where every gem holds a story, these artisans harness the art of jewelry making to create talismans that grant luck, protection, and augmented abilities. Many Many appraisers' creations often become cherished symbols of magical ingenuity, as it exemplifies the delicate balance between craftsmanship and magic. Okay, so this is almost now I'm getting the feel that this is like your, not herbalist, but like your brewmaster, your potion maker, but
With
more on the idea
items.
of items. Yeah, so this is more of
Okay.
like, okay, so I kind of like that. You know, the talismans is giving me a much better, clearer understanding. Still interesting that it's called the Appraiser, but we'll work with it. We'll go with
Okay,
it and see
cool.
and see how it falls through. All right, so all right, I see. So this kind of makes sense, like the, you know, the idea that you know the best pieces to put all together for your items. I'm kind of getting the image here.
Okay.
Still interesting, but again, I think I'm just getting held up too much on the specifics of the word and not just appreciating the generalness of it. I mean, it's kind of like what we did with our last subclass that we created. Like the Echo Assassin doesn't necessarily need to be an assassin. So kind of that concept of maybe, you know, take a step back from the term and not take it so literal. Maybe that's my problem. All right, so tools of the trade. When you adopt the tools of the trade. When you adopt the specialization at 3rd level, you gain proficiency with jeweler's tools. If you already have this proficiency, you gain proficiency with one other type of artisan's tools of your choice. Now, didn't you make the claim before that this should instead grant you expertise?
I 100% agree with that.
Because I really feel like that is I 100% believe that should just be a base way that 5e labels the subclass options, is if you already have the proficiency, expertise should absolutely be enough.
Yeah, just because like expertise is so underutilized, right? And there's really no way to get that.
Exactly. Other than like, this would be the perfect thing, is your subclass, your background, all of your character build.
Anybody could at least have one.
Exactly. And but I get the idea that your entire build would have to be focused on, because like you're gonna choose this background, but you already chose jewelers, knowing that it has jewelers. Like that means you're double. Yeah. But I mean, that means that your choice is doubled down on this build. I'm okay being able to get expertise when it's like, oh no, I'm focused on a build, and versus just being able to get it.
Imagine somebody else down the line wanting to multi-class and end up going into this, and they didn't pick it from the beginning, so they didn't specialize, so they don't get expertise. So it's not like everyone's always going to get expertise when it comes to this.
Yeah,
you know, people who,
I mean, hell, you can even limit it to just every character gets one expertise. I mean, even a simple rule like that, just when you get it, you just make sure that you want to, you know, be an expert.
I will say
in that one thing, because
rogues get like 3, and then bards get 4.
Oh,
just because.
Yeah. I mean, that's quite a bit.
They're aggressive. It's so early too.
Gonna look at my party member with a fancy sword. Don't know how to pronounce any of that. It's because artificers can manipulate lots of tools and skill checks. Also expertise, again, bard rogue identity. And that's interesting that I don't necessarily agree that has to be like a bard rogue thing. Like, having them have multiples is one thing, but again, it's so underutilized that it should be available at least at one.
Just thinking about the idea of expertise, saying it's limited to a specific class, like that's hard.
And then those ones get multiple. You know what I mean? Like that's the weird balance. Like, if they were the only ones that got it, give them 1 or 2. But if they're the only ones that get it and they all get 4 and they each get 4, it's like, but why doesn't everyone else get at least 1 then? That would really make the dichotomy a little bit different.
Yeah, I don't think it should be that hard to share a feature like that. But
yeah, so I don't know. I don't disagree that, you know, in terms of when it comes to actual like subclass options, I really do think that if you're building it, you know, from the ground up like that, and if you're really going to be doubling down, something like a proficiency that's given to you by your subclass, specifically by your subclass, I think even if it were limited to only proficiencies given to you by your subclass or your background can grant expertise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so it's not like you can pick it up by multi-class, or like, you know, multi-classing down the road might be able to, you know, to pick it up because that subclass had it. But you know what I mean? Like, not being able to just take a feat and then, you know, or somehow, you know, gain it in any other way, right?
Right.
Like, having it limited to a very specific way that it has to come by, I think would be fine.
Agreed.
All right. So anyway, so tools of the trade. So we get either jeweler's kits or another one. So jeweler's kit's interesting. So again, we're focusing more on the, I guess what you would consider like the magical component of a lot of magical items, right? Like thinking of gems being a big magical component.
Yeah.
So as appraiser spells, you always have certain spells prepared after you reach particular levels in the class, as shown in the appraiser spell table. These spells count as artificial spells, but they do not count against the number of artificial spells you can prepare. So at third level, you get chromatic orb and distort value. Ooh, distort value is such a good. Ooh. I like that. Fifth, you get enhanced ability and locate object. Locate object, I think, is actually phenomenal. Ninth, you get incite greed and meld into stone. Both of those actually make perfect sense. 13th, you get compulsion and stone shape. And 17th, animate objects and dawn. I don't know what dawn is.
Dawn's like a daylight spell, isn't it?
So the only things I'm kind of confused about, in terms of not confused, but the only things that just don't immediately like click would be the chromatic orb, the enhanced ability, and dawn. Like those three are kind of the only ones. Like, not to say that there's anything wrong with them. It's just that they're the first ones that stand out as I don't see
as why here,
right?
Kind of. Enhanced ability, I'll say enhanced ability is pretty cool, and I could see it as in, like, imagine you created a jewel or an item that buffs like your intelligence modifier or something like that. Like, enables you to do, like, because enhanced ability, if I'm not mistaken, just gives you like advantage on
well, and for an artificer, especially if you're going to be creating stuff, I think it's a great add-on, right? Like, it really feels more like that would be something that an artificer would get.
Yeah.
So I'm totally here for it. Again, it just doesn't immediately make the click in terms of the build.
Sure.
I guess I can understand chromatic orb from, like, I guess the gem focused mindset. I mean, it's a good spell. I really like that spell.
Sure.
And it's always nice to not have completely non-combative stuff, so it is nice to see in there.
Yeah,
I just don't immediately understand like how this particular background or this particular like subclass.
Guess maybe combining different gems symbolizing different elements could turn into some sort of what's evocation type deal.
Yeah. And then again, dawn, I mean, maybe if you think about it from like the mining perspective, you're trying to find the right gems, but again, at 17th level, I'm trying to figure out, like,
I'll say its initial description does feel very much like a daylight type of deal. It says dawn shines light down on a location, or the light of dawn shines down on a but like, imagine you had this like gem that you like throw up and it's almost like some blinding light. It doesn't even have to be like sunlight. It could be like green or purple or something crazy like that. And it has very similar effects.
Interesting.
So
okay, yeah.
It almost feels like you're throwing up a disco ball. I'm not even gonna lie.
Most of them use jewels as components. That makes sense. Okay, so these are jewel-based spells. Okay,
yes.
So that would make the most sense, connecting why you would be able to do these. There was large gap spells available to mix the idea, so gel components. Hey, that makes actually a lot of sense to do it, because I mean, like I said, like all of these made perfect sense except for those three, and not that those three are bad, they actually fit well. I mean, again, I think dawn is probably the one that fits the least, but again, chromatic orb makes sense because it's a gem spell and it's probably one of the best useful ones early game, especially for something like an artificer. And enhanced ability, I mean, especially for an artificer, the idea of being able to infuse yourself, right? Like, just kind of use that idea of being an inventor, pulling all-nighters, right? Being able to push yourself. I think that's kind of what I'm looking at there. So yeah, so I don't think there's any issue here. I wouldn't really make any adjustments to this one. I don't know, because what level spell is dawn?
5th. And these guys are only half casters.
That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to think of like what other 4th, 5th level spell would be more worth giving. I mean, I without like really dividing it into spell components, I'm just trying to even think of like what alternative could you even justify? Unless there are no other 4th, 5th level spells that have that kind of spell component. But I'm just trying to think of like, could we even come up with one that would be an alternative?
I was kind of drawn to creation. Nothing else. Maybe Far Step if you wanna say you can. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's, Dawn's maybe good enough, especially because if you take the word of it, maybe that actually does go against things like undead or anything that like daylight hurts, because it is the light of dawn, so
True.
it is sunlight.
Yeah.
So there is benefits from there. All right, so yeah, so no real changes on the spells. All right, so starting at level 3, Lucky Cuts. You've learned how to create exquisite trinkets that can improve your allies' strengths. Using jeweler's tools, you can take an action to magically create a piece of jewelry. You can have a number of jewelry equal to your intelligence modifier, minimum of 1. And if you create one while you were at your maximum, the oldest jewelry fades away. So very similar to other things that we've seen where you can have multiple effects going at once.
Sure.
We've seen this in a lot of subclasses that can create their own weapons or create their own stuff. So that's pretty good. You can work with your DM to determine what kind of jewelry you can create or utilize the following Lucky Cuts table to determine what kind of jewelry you can craft by rolling a d6. So the d6 has opal earrings, amethyst bracelet, jade brooch, pearl ring, topaz necklace, garnet chain. Also as a bonus action, you can give a willing creature within reach one of your jewelry. Creatures can wear any number of jewelry you've created. While wearing a piece of jewelry, you can use one of the following granted features. So before we get to features, I know me. I know this is not a 5th edition thing at all. And I don't think 5th edition would be keen on doing this. But if we're gonna say that like this is the D6, it's like, am I having to have amethyst on me, or is it just the idea that these are all relatively easy to get trinkets at a certain price, right? Because my first thought was, wouldn't it depend on the thing it's made out of is the effect? Like I would have almost liked to see this as it could be a bracelet, an earring, a brooch. I would say it could be any jewelry, but the type of material you use will
determine what you can do.
I think I prefer that over.
I do kind of like that. I very like that idea. Effect. But I will say, it can get hard, and this is where it comes to the 5th edition side of things. It can get hard if you never run into the one thing you need. Well, and if like your DM's like, hey, jade, you're only ever going to find that in this one cave somewhere. So
that's where really more where you have to make sure that there's like, you could have like, a copper, gold, silver,
sure,
diamond, like make it to where they're the more common elements, and then each one. So that would be my alternative, because that's my first instinct, right? I look at this and I'm like,
I do agree. I like that mentality,
and earring versus bracelet,
and it makes a lot of sense,
right? If I'm just rolling the D6 and getting one of these, I kind of feel like, why again, this is that thing that I'm not a big fan of, is flavor text.
That was my other thing, is are you creating this, or do you have to have the opal and amethyst and jade in order to build one of these things? That's my question.
And that's what I mean, is like, is it the idea that you just, it's in general assumed that you can, or do you have to get so that's my thing, is I think if I were going to do it, my gut instinct would be, you can choose a list of effects, and the effects will be based off of what the material you need, and then you can make any piece of jewelry. I think that's the way I would. But I know that 5th edition doesn't do it, right? Like that would have cost a whole table and different stuff. I feel like that's not as approachable as they want to make it. So yeah, I really think that, but we'll see what the effects are, though, because we don't know how many effects there are. There's 6 different types of jewelry, but we'll kind of figure out what kind of actual effects we can get.
Right.
What's going on, Venom? We are talking about a homebrew review submitted by Pokeniner. This is a Artificer subclass called the Appraiser, and we're just getting into its level 3 ability. What's going on? So I want to see what kind of character that in return uses Rings of Alara. Oh, I remember the Rings of Alara. Those were those like 10 rings that Lucifer gave us.
That's
right?
true, yeah.
Crazy. Yeah, if something like this had all of those 10 rings, like we already know that those rings were crazy.
That would be absolutely wild.
Okay, so not limited to this list. It is just a suggestion. This is also using old wording. You can work with your DM to determine what kind of jewelry you can create or utilize with the following Lucky Cuts table to determine what kind of jewelry you craft by rolling d6. Yeah, it's the same. It's just a tool for easy and quick rather than having someone spend a lot of time on what they want to make. So yeah, so that's totally fine, because I think if
That's kind of what I assumed initially, but I still do like the idea of the materials
matching them up, because the other way to do it too is also, instead of like a roll table, just list out what they can make. Just say that in general you can make earrings, bracelet, brooch, rings, necklace, chain.
Interesting.
You know, you can just say you can make one of these things. Let the player choose, and then again, the DM can decide what it's made out of if they want to take that extra step, or they can just say, here's the effect. But again, this is 100% Pokeniner. It's 100% from me, because again, for me, adding those details should matter.
Sure.
If I'm just able to give a piece of jewelry magic and the material doesn't matter, then I don't think we should be bothered mentioning material, personally.
Sure.
Because that's where you just say it has to be a bare minimum of 100 GP jewelry. But if it's going to change based on the effect, then why don't those two things matter, right? And that's just how my brain works. It's just
sure. No, I
would
get
be
that.
more confused.
Most definitely.
A bedazzler artificer, basically.
Wild, disrespectful.
It's your friend Jared. It's the Artificer Jared. You know,
it's your
Jared
Artificer
Shane.
Jared. Jared Shane.
It's Jared Shane. All right.
That's funny.
It's interesting too that as a bonus action you can give a willing creature. So I like that the bonus action is kind of implying the idea that you can pass this off during combat. Like I can just toss you, jewelry or hand it off in combat, because otherwise you don't need to mention that it's a bonus action.
Why is the first thing I think of is the fusion earrings? Someone just passes you.
Fine, let's go.
Get out of here. That's wild.
Okay, so one thing I'm also a little bit concerned about is we had, again, only because I saw the roll table, but we only have 2 effects. That's actually not as many as I was expecting. I was actually kind of expecting quite a bit. So let's look at what effects you can give this jewelry. So you have Empowering Glow. Once per turn, the creature can add a D4 to an attack roll or saving throw they make, no action required. They can wait until after a roll before deciding to use the jewelry, but must decide before the DM says whether or not the roll succeeds or fails. See, I'm always, I mean, I guess that makes sense, because it's you see your roll,
you see how effectively,
how close you feel you are.
Yes,
right?
how effectively you feel you swung.
I don't mind that one. It's always just so weird when you put the stipulations on like you can do it this time, but before this, but after this, but only, it's like,
but I get you.
But again, sometimes it feels like it's a little bit too punishing to require it before you make a roll, because sometimes that's good. Sometimes when it's a really good bonus, I'm okay saying that you have to choose before you make the roll.
No,
because it's more of a, I guarantee, like when you can choose advantage, I'm okay saying that you have to choose to have advantage before the roll, because it's like a bigger decision on, I want this whole roll to succeed. Whereas if you're willing to let the roll fail, but you're like right on the cusp, this is the rule I'm okay with. But sometimes there's that time where you want to know whether you failed, because it's like one of those like action economy things.
Sure.
If I can only do something once per day, I need to know it's the time to use it.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's always dependent upon context. This is the right context, I think, for something like this, because
Agreed.
When you just have it on you, being able to just have that feeling like, you know what, this is that moment. I kind of wish I had just 1 or 2 extra points. Let's use it, right? So I like the implementation of this one, even though normally I'm a little bit hesitant when I see all the stipulations.
Right.
Let's see. So you need to decide before the DM says whether the roll succeeds or fails. The die changes when you reach certain levels in this class. The die becomes a D6 at level 8, a D8 at level 13, and a D10 at level 17. I actually like that. So basically this is a guaranteed max guidance. Let's boil this down. This is guaranteed max guidance, because guidance gives you a D4 on a roll. This basically gives you, or no, you add a D4, so it is guidance. So basically this is self-chosen guidance on an attack roll or saving throw, because guidance, if I give you guidance, you get a D4. So that's basically it. It's basically guidance, but given to you to hold on to. I don't have to give it to you right before you roll. I'm letting you decide when to do it.
And it's just for yourself.
It's just for whoever's wearing the item. So I kind of like that. That's actually a good alternative to guidance, especially if you don't have a proper cleric in the party who has it. I say proper cleric, but you know what I mean. Like if you don't have a cleric rolling around with your traditional guidance, this is a good alternative, because it's something that, again, I can just hold on to that ring and just wait till I need it.
Sure.
Instead of needing you to have that ready to put on. So I kind of like that. And guidance does only work on skill checks, not attacker. Yeah. So it's an alternative version. get it.
So it'd be more like bless. It'd be more like bless.
That's the one. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so I actually really like that. And I do like that it goes up. I like that the die goes all the way up to a D10. That's killer.
Yeah, very much so.
Especially
I think it makes it more valuable as you go through.
Well, because at level 17, right? Who cares about a D4? How
100%.
often am I gonna feel like I'm 2 points away from hitting this guy? Like, no, I'm gonna want that D10 if it's a certain time. So
Sure.
especially because, yeah, no, I like that. I really like that. No changes. There's really, I mean, it upgrades well. It starts out proper. It starts out early.
Yeah, no, I like it.
Yeah, no, fine. Excuse me. Let's see. And then we have Elegant Shine. Once per turn, the creature can add a bonus to any charisma skill check they make. The bonus is equal to your intelligence modifier. Huh.
Interesting.
I get the ability. I don't quite get where it's coming from. Like, I don't quite get why the Artificer would do it. Right? Like, I guess if you could think of like the Artificer also has other things that could like benefit them in a sale. So, you know, it's kind of like self-inflicted. Like they could do it to have.
I mean, unless we're trying to say the magic input in here is some sort of like charming magic. Like, and that's what's causing it. Like, I can get why they would want it. Like, you know, I can see it being useful in way more social situations, right? Like a lot more RP based situations. But
I mean, I guess if you look at it, Elegant Shine, so it's almost like you're making the jewelry so magnificent looking that people automatically assume that you're of a higher status, kind of. So that's why, like, the charisma concept of they see your jewelry and they're like, oh, I must be dealing with like a noble in disguise.
And this is all charisma checks, which is performance, deception, persuasion, intimidation.
Yeah, so there's quite a bit there that it does encompass. I guess again, it's just not the first thing I would think of coming from this Artificer, but it's not bad. It's not bad. I don't dislike it. And a bonus equal to your intelligence. I mean, yeah, that's not terrible. Your intelligence modifier makes sense. Artificers, I think they're based on intelligence, right?
Yeah.
So
it's gonna want to be a 4 or 5, you know, eventually. Yeah. So they'll probably start off as like a 3 or a 4, but still.
You did not miss much. We're only on the level 3 ability. We've already passed some of the skills, but basically we're on a Artificer called the Appraiser. It can create jewelry with one of these 2 abilities, and we're kind of breaking them down. Okay, so if we have Empowering Glow, which kind of makes sense, I'm totally down for that. Elegant Shine, it's not bad, but I'm gonna pin my next comment until we read this next section right here, which is when a creature uses one of these features from one of your jewelry, that piece of jewelry cannot grant that feature again until the next dawn. So I do like that they auto recharge. I wouldn't mind it if even the Artificer, whether now or later, can like have a certain amount of like expenditures to where they can recharge their own jewelry, like a number equal to your proficiency modifier in a day or something. So like, again, if I use it, they can walk over, touch it, and infuse it again with an action.
So am I to assume that these are one-shot pieces of jewelry? Not that this jewelry gets destroyed, but it just loses its power
until dawn.
Once it gets used, so
basically it's like basically I create a magical item as the Artificer. I create this magical item and it has a once per day charge, and as long as I don't destroy it or make too many items, you will have a once per day magical item on your person, and I can make as many of those equal to my intelligence. So again, up to 4 or 5,
similar to Bardic Inspiration.
Yeah, exactly, similar to Bardic's. You're making a mini bless item. Oh, see, Pokeniner said exactly what you said. So yeah, chat's basically on their game. So
my question is,
at a time. So you can only have up to, max 4 or 5 of these out there in the world at a time, but they're all going to have one time. So the pin comment, because we haven't gotten any further and it might change. But my next gut reaction, right, is since you can have up to like 4 or 5 of these out at a time, right? Well, you can definitely scam sell them. You just have to make sure you get away within 24 hours and then just go make more and sell more. Like, you can totally scam people. You just don't be there, you know, because you could literally sell it to them, have them use it in front of you and go, see, look, try it out. See, it works. It'll recharge in 24 hours. Then you leave. It won't ever recharge. You got their money. Or you wait 24 hours, they recharge see that it works, they pay you the full amount, and then you leave. Totally scam. But okay, so here was my pinned comment that I wanted to get back to, because my next gut instinct of what I'm hoping to see is more abilities, because right now, right off the top, we were given all of these options for jewelry, but only 2 abilities. And I'm feeling all of a sudden, I'm feeling lacking in a subclass here, because this whole subclass is about, because we've had other subclasses where by this point you'd have like 4 different ways you could buff the party, right? And I'm thinking, if I'm giving out jewelry, there's kind of a lot of more options here in terms of what we could buff people with, right? Like being able to give someone like a +2 to their AC for 2 rounds or 1 round, or till the end of their next turn, once per day, right? Giving temporary HP, you know, for you know, 10 minutes or something like that. And then 1 creature can wear all the jewelry, yes. But that's the ideas, right? Like that's why I'm kind of thinking is if I can wear up to 4 or 5 pieces of jewelry, I kind of honestly, in my mind,
how many of these can you have?
Up to 4 or 5. Any person can wear any number, but you can only create as many as your intelligence modifier.
Okay, that's what.
So if you have 4 or 5, even someone wearing all of these, yes, it might be nice to have 4 or 5 empowering glows, but at the same time, it would kind of be nice to have a little bit more variety. Like sometimes I could understand wearing 5 different rings, each have a different ability, but if 5 different rings only have these 2, more likely than not, I'm only going to be using 1 of them, right? Like I might have 1 ring with the elegant shine, but I'm probably going to have 4 empowering glows. So I kind of wouldn't mind having at least 1 or 2 other abilities, because I would like to see the option to be able to benefit different party members differently. Because while this looks nice, it doesn't benefit every type of party member I can be. And I think that's where I would like this kind of a buff character to be, is somewhere that's a little bit more like distinctive.
So the way this reads right now, you don't have to choose this at the time of creating it. You can just give this jewelry to somebody and they get to choose which one of those things pops out.
They choose that one of these 2 things happen, which is also a weird way to do it. I think I'd prefer it at creation. Like personally, I think I would prefer when you create it, you decide what it can do, and then the person who wears it gets to activate it.
So I'll say this. If you get to choose, like the way it's described here, and if later on we get more options for it, I'm fine it being once a day. But if we were to do it the way you were just talking about, where you have to choose at the time, like I feel like I would want them to be able to do it more often than that.
6 months in advance. Holy shit, Cart. Thank you.
Cart, we appreciate you. God
wow.
bless.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Wow. I looked over and was like, oh shit, that was 6 months in advance. My God. I don't think anyone's done that before. Jeez. That completely okay, wow.
That's crazy.
Thank you.
We appreciate you, bud. But yeah, so like I feel like I would want them to be able to be done more often, like each one, especially because I feel like at that point it's gonna make a lot of sense to have one of these on each of my party members. Say you got a party of 4. And then you're gonna want we're gonna want at least everyone to be able to have access to one of these things. And if they can choose whichever one they want to hold on to.
Yeah. Okay. So, like, so yeah. No, you're right.
That was good. That's gonna make it feel more useful to me, especially be like, okay, you're gonna need this empowering glow. But every time we get into a social situation, you're always the one who's gonna talk us through it. So I want you to have the elegant shine one.
Well, and that's my thing is like, you're right. If it stays to where the person wearing it gets to choose, maybe adding one along the way would be nice. But again, my gut instinct says that I would prefer to see this as at the time of creation, you imbue it with a certain ability. And then there's the team dynamic of what item belongs to who.
I
Right?
agree, but I
creating
just
it
think
more for the individual.
if that's the case, them only being able to use it once a day feels bad.
Oh no, and that's why
I want to like give it a couple more charges.
Either that or
when
the
it's like
Artificer
that.
can charge it himself. Like it by itself is always going to recharge it once per day, but he can also give it more charges, or he can
Interesting.
Like I said, like if
That's
once
an interesting idea.
Like if once per day he gets a number of charges equal to his proficiency modifier, and he can imbue one of his creations with that charge, or use a charge to refresh an item. So he can make I can make you a ring, and once per day you get the glow. But if you use it up, I can use one of my charges to give it back to you today. Or when I give it to you, I can be like, here, it has 2 extra charges just for today. So it has its own 1 day a charge, but I gave it 2 charges today. So you have 3 uses right now.
Got it.
I would see that being really cool because, like you said, everybody gets one, and then they can play around with how many charges each person
I think
gets.
that would be a little interesting dynamic. That would be fun to play with.
But yeah, I think my gut instinct just comes down to team dynamic. This almost feels a little bit too like, yes, it's nice buff, but it is too easy to just give everybody this default buff that isn't really about you anymore. You know what I mean? It basically makes you the shopkeep of the team.
Oh, that's interesting. So Pokeniner says that the piece of jewelry cannot use that particular one. So each one of these pieces of jewelry is loaded with both of those.
Yeah.
And once it uses empowering glow, it still has an elegant shine inside of it.
So it has 2. Oh, it has 2 charges.
It has
one of each.
One of each. It has one of each in there.
So here's the problem. So while we're in they can use one of the following features. It should say one each of the following features, because it says one of the following. Telling you
that definitely makes me feel like I'm only allowed to choose one of these.
That's my problem. That's Pokeniner. That was the way I read it. Is it said when it says they can use one of the following. They can use each of the following once per day.
Got you.
Is how it should read.
That would make a lot of sense.
Okay. So in that particular case, I get it. So I would still, if we're keeping it tied to the person wearing it, at least one more ability, if not now, later. I'd like at least a 3rd option, because 2 just still feels a little weird. But again, my better judgment says it should be chosen on time of creation. But that's more of my traditional way of doing Magic. I feel like it makes a better team cohesion, because again, this kind of feels like you're just there to create items and sell them. You're just the party shopkeep, because realistically, once they have it, they're in control of it. You aren't part of the picture
process anymore.
But if you had to create it and then decide, like, what do you need, Barbarian? Which one of these 4 or 5 abilities can I give you? That would feel a little bit better. But like you said, I feel like it's one way or the other. Either it needs more options, or it needs more refresh, like you were saying.
Sure.
So yeah, I think that's kind of where we're landing on it, because I don't mind either of these. I feel like as much as I could benefit from them, I don't feel like it's good enough to warrant the entire subclass. And again, we haven't gotten anywhere. We haven't gotten past 3 yet.
Sure.
But we always talk about how this is supposed to give me the baseline of my class. I'm not really feeling so far like I can't wait to play this.
Sure. No, I get that.
What I mean? I don't feel like the same buffing character that I could if I played a bard or a cleric, because we've seen some other subclasses where I really feel like I'm dynamically being such a buff and just constantly being there for the party. This feels like a little bit of a one-trick pony. Like, once I create all my items and give them out to my party, what else am I? Haven't gotten to level 5 yet, but what else am I? So we have to see what the rest of it is. I would compare it to you getting Bardic Inspiration at this level, but in a unique form. True. But again, Bardic Inspiration isn't quite necessarily what an entire subclass is based around.
Yeah, that's what I went to go look up. Like, that's a main class feature, and that's a small piece of like what you're walking into in that entire class. This, again, is supposed to feel like the cornerstone of what this subclass is. So giving it something a little bit chunkier than just being a Bardic is not a bad idea.
Yeah, so... But we'll see. Let's see if it gets anything more. So moving on to 5th. So Claritative Appraisal, level 5. Actually, do we need to know anything specifically about Artificer up until level 5? Like any major like core features that we should be keeping in mind to pair
Let me
up?
go back. So you start off with a little bit of magical tinkering, nothing specific. You can imbue some little things with some stuff. That's at level 2. You get right tool for the job, which means you can change out the tool set that you have.
Right.
Like over, I think, a short or long rest. Level 4, you get an ASI. At level 5, you get your specialist feature. So
Gotcha.
up until this point, we're sitting kind of pretty with just a little bit.
So with Clarity of Appraisal level 5, your proficiency with the jeweler's tools allow you to channel the magical energy from your craft into your spells. Whenever you cast a spell using jeweler's tools as a spellcasting focus, you can use your reaction to do one of the following as part of the spell. If the spell deals damage, the spell's damage increases by 1 additional die of the spell. If there are multiple instances of damage rolls within that spell, you can only add the additional damage die to one of those damage rolls. So if you hit 4 targets, only one of those targets gets 1 extra die. Not each of them gets an extra die.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
you get 1 extra damage die for the entire spell, not 1 per target. It's 1 extra damage die for the entire spell, regardless of the target.
So
it's how I read that.
If I have a fireball spell, and it's normally what, 66? It's now 76.
Oh, it does affect AoEs. So when you say multiple instances, so when I read multiple instances, I thought like if it hits you and you and you and you, I can only do 1 extra damage die.
It could be something like twin spell.
But that's so okay. So it does affect AoEs, but not multiple targets. So fireball's
AoE.
Oh, because so it's 1 damage.
Everybody
roll.
gets 1 damage roll.
So you add 1 damage die. So I guess it would be like if
So-
something does 2 different types of damage, you only get 1.
There's
extra
a
die.
spell called what is it called? Scorching Ray.
Yeah.
And you shoot 3 different rays with 3 different attack rolls at 3 different targets, or potentially the same target, but
Right,
they are
right.
3 different instances
So that
of
would only
attack.
get 1 of those. Yeah,
One
so
of
that's what I'm
those
thinking.
with that
Gotcha.
spell would work. It wouldn't
Or like
all
Magic
3
Missile.
of them. Yeah.
Like Magic Missile would only
Magic
get 1
Missile.
extra die on 1 of the instances. No.
Now, would you call that its own extra dart? No, it wouldn't be its own extra dart because
No.
it wouldn't get the plus.
No, it would only get
It's
the extra
just the die,
roll.
and one of
Gotcha.
them. Okay. Also, later when you get it higher than 5th level, the cantrip Eldritch Blast
Can
does different beams instead of
yeah.
just increasing in the die size.
Gotcha. Okay, so yeah, so that's not too bad. So yeah, so basically, for 1 single instance of damage, you get an extra damage die. Okay, not. Wait, so Magic Missile counts as 1 damage roll for each target. So you get 1 per missile. So again, then I don't think this is written correctly. Then I think that you need to rewrite the concept of
You get
multiple
1
instances.
per missile?
Because that's what I'm saying. So this doesn't make any sense. If I can get 1 additional damage die per missile, then that's not per instance of damage. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like unless you're talking about only when it does 2 types of damage, where it does damage and then it does a different type. But
So read it one more time.
so only Pokeniner, you're so confusing, man.
Hold on.
Honestly, the way that you're typing, like, so you say only 1 per missile, but now you say only 1 missile. I'm so confused. So we were right. You only get 1 extra damage die.
Not
on
all of them.
1 missile, not all missiles. But I
Okay.
didn't understand because it says
He might have just typed too quickly and added the per in there.
yeah. So only 1 missile. Gotcha.
Only 1 missile. Okay, yeah.
So you can do this. So every time you cast a spell with your Jeweler's Focus, you can either choose to do, and again, you have to use a reaction to do this. Use a reaction. Per missile spell. Gotcha. That's what he meant to say. Per missile spell.
Got it.
Gotcha. All right. So the other option, you can use your reaction. And I want to put a pin in that because I know we have thoughts about reactions with base skills.
Okay.
But if the spell restores a number of hit points, the spell's healing increases by 1 additional die. So basically, you just get to add a die to either a damage or a heal.
Got
to
it.
a spell
got
that
it.
you're casting.
Okay.
So this is essentially upcasting the spell at the cost of your reaction. In the idea that you're making it better in some. Not the
Gotcha.
whole spell, but you're making that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so an example, if an appraiser casts Scorching Ray spell using Jeweler's Tools, and this is the one that you said, as the
Yeah.
spell focus, they can use their reaction to roll an additional die for only 1 of the rays. That's exactly the...
Okay.
I love that that's the example.
The
you
example.
used.
Yeah.
So here's my thing. So how do you feel about a core feature, because it's a subclass, but a core feature of the subclass, how do you feel about getting a feature that is reliant on something like reaction? Because I know that we talk about a lot about action economy, and we have strong feelings about the idea that, like, we've talked a lot about getting certain core features, but when they're locked behind something, that means you could potentially not be able to use it. Is that okay? So in this particular case, how do you feel about this being locked behind a reaction?
I'll say this. Because it does kind of feel like a free upcast that you get to do. How often can you do this? Is this just a thing you can do?
Whenever you do it, you just get to choose as long as you have a reaction. So this is just always whenever you want, you just get to add this die to any spell as long as
let me look up Fireball real quick.
I think it's 66, right? So you'd get, or no, it's like 46 now.
So when you cast this spell of 4th level or higher, the damage increases by 1d6. So yeah,
so it's basically a free.
You get a free upcast every turn.
You lose the ability to use things like shield. I'm not really sure what that means though. Why?
Oh, because a shield is a reaction.
Gotcha.
So like you can't use your reaction to do other things.
86.
But wait, is it? Yeah, it is.
86 now.
It is 86. So it would go up to 96.
Yeah, but that's so 96. And technically, there's nothing stopping you from upcasting your spell on top of this.
Yes.
So technically, you can upcast Fireball to get your 96, and then
use
the
this
reaction
to get to 10.
Give it a 10.
So regardless, it's a free upcast.
Yeah, so it's okay to be under a reaction if it's that powerful. It's one of the few times we've seen a core feature come as at the cost of something. Because usually it's okay if it's like an attack and it costs an action, but
sure.
To really say that a core feature costs you a reaction, something that you may just not be able to do, it has to be worth it.
I'm not gonna lie. I also think this should not just be an at-will thing. Like I think this should cost, like, you could do this up to a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier or some type shit. Like I mean maybe attach it to your
the proficiency bonus even?
Your proficiency bonus would give you less. Yeah. You would start off with little, but then you'd get up to 6. But if you have you can get 5 of these pretty early on. Like by 5th level, you could probably have 5 already because you have an ASI to bump your intelligence to 20. But regardless, like I feel like it should be behind being able to upcast for free every single time. Now, granted, you're still using spell slots. Like you still have actual
and you still have to use the reaction, which means in certain combat, you are putting yourself at a bit of
imagine you only have 5th level spells and you cast this at 5th level and then you do this on top of it. You're getting 6th level damage before you're even allowed to have 6th level spells. Like,
but you also said the very key thing. It's an Artificer, it's a half caster.
That's true.
So it doesn't really it's not going to be slinging spells all combat.
That's very fair.
To be fair, as a half caster, the best it's ever going to get is a 5th level spell. So to have it ability to upcast it is only like
let me actually go back and look, because that's a very fair point.
Being a half caster, I think it actually works. If this was given to a sorcerer, I would 100% agree with you. 5th
level.
I would 100% agree. If this were a sorcerer or a wizard, it would have to have a limit, right? You couldn't let a sorcerer or a wizard just upcast all day long.
It does say leveled spells, right?
You can use your reaction to do whenever you cast a spell, but the spell has to do damage or healing. So you're only upcasting.
You could do it on a cantrip?
Technically, I guess. As long as you're using your spell focus, so technically you can upcast it. And
I might limit that to leveled spells.
Well, but like, how bad is that though? Like what's like the most powerful?
It's not super bad, especially because it's just one, but you're not theoretically supposed to get, because that's every single turn. You're basically doubling your damage. But
it's also level 5. And again, cantrips. Think about, you're only really doubling your damage.
So at 5th level is when your cantrip doubles for the first time.
Okay, so you're doubling +1 then at this point.
When you start off, your cantrip does like 1d10 if it's fireball, right? At 5th level, it does 2d10. So now you're making it 3d10 every time you cast it with your reaction.
Yeah.
That
I see where you're going. At 5th level, being able to basically roll out 3d10 guaranteed.
You're not supposed to get it until 15th level.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. But unleveled spells for a half caster, I still think that's okay. I think you're right with the cantrips though.
Yeah, leveled spells I'm okay with, because you're only getting 6 spell slots. So at most you're doing it 6 times.
And you know what? I know a perfect way we can add this into the lore. Cantrips don't have material components. So if the whole point is most of the spells that they get are like gem based, because remember, like the idea was that they're casting things with gems. Like, and again, because you're using the spell focus, technically, I think I mean, I don't know if you can technically use a spell focus for cantrips. I don't think you need one. I don't know like exactly the mechanics behind if you need a spell focus for cantrips or if they do anything.
Oh,
but I'm just thinking like lore wise, you could basically say that leveled spells make more sense because they need that extra oomph, whereas cantrips are more interesting, you know, like from the person. So yeah, so I agree with you. I think that a very easy fix. I love this ability. I love the extra die for the damage and the health. I do think that limiting it to, because what's the is there a healing cantrip that you can get?
No, there's no healing
cantrip.
Not in standard 5th edition.
So yeah, so I think that yeah, that does make sense, because that means that cantrips would be far too powerful, way too early. So that's basically, I mean, 3d10 could one hit most mid-level creatures, or at least, you know,
it could hit some. You could down some minions.
Yeah.
Like,
so I would say just adding that. You can use your reaction to do one of the following 2 leveled spells, or allows you to just
first level or higher, whatever the case may be.
Unsure if cantrip requires a material component. I don't think they do, because that's the whole idea, is they're supposed to just be like,
some of them do, like Shillelagh requires you to have a weapon because you're.
But that's like an imbuement, though. That's not really I'm talking about like a something that it needs, otherwise it can't be cast. Let me look at
Firebolt.
Like obviously a Shillelagh, the whole point is imbuing a weapon. If you don't have the weapon, you can't.
No, Firebolt's verbal and somatic. Let me actually just,
because I'm pretty, yeah, because that would be the thing, right? That would be the way that if you had a problem with limiting it, that would, the lore would be, is because you need to have a gem component, you know. That would be a very difficult thing to add to this, and I think that would make it kind of, you know, unfair. So there's no damage cantrip that requires material component except infestation. So yeah, I would say that makes the most sense to say, yeah, cut it down to leveled spells, because then as a half caster, I'm okay with it. I'm much more comfortable as a half caster, not as a full caster, and yeah, cantrips kind of get broken.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
5 items from D&D Beyond that I realized they have a crab mech. There's a crab mech. Jesus Christ. Well, I mean, we had a spider mech. Someone had a drivable spider. That
the spider tank. Yeah, so, I remember that one.
It's not unthinkable.
It could happen.
You don't think it's necessary to limit this to leveled spells? Like I said, I think that's making it too powerful. I think right off the bat, you know, I don't know what infestation does, but again, I'm just thinking if you can have a cantrip do 1d10, and by level 5 you're doing 3d10 every turn, just infinitely.
If I can spam this on cantrips every single turn,
why
like,
would regardless, I do anything else?
Because I could take a magic initiate and get spells from any spell list. I could get Eldritch Blast, and just, now again, you would do this to one of the beams instead of all the beams, but yeah, still that gets way powerful way quick, and especially when you can choose.
And I mean, how many times, because I mean, you get this, how many times can you, well, because yeah, there's no limit to how many times you can do this.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you can just spam the crap out of it infinitely.
What do you mean only one cantrip could? I don't understand what you mean. Like, you're just saying, I mean, as it reads, every turn I can do this with a reaction. So again, anytime we cast a cantrip every single one of our turns.
Yeah, and theoretically I can still cast a bonus action leveled spell.
Yeah, and do it, and so yeah, so
so okay, what I believe Pokeniner is saying is, because a spellcasting focus is required, it means that you're not casting the cantrip with.
So cantrips don't get cast with them unless it was infestation, because the infestation is the only one that has a material component.
Yes, that's how he's reading this. Me as a DM, that's not how I read this.
Yeah, because it says whenever you cast it using a jeweler's kit as a spell focus, and there's nothing technically saying that you only use the focus when it's necessary. You could technically use the focus whenever. Like, the whole point, it's like a wizard and their wand.
Very much
it's just
so.
something that they're casting through. So I would say that the best way to do this is, if you want to add infestation, if you want infestation to still be, what do you mean it's incorrect? Like,
the argument that Pokeniner is making is that specifically when it describes the spell casting focus, when he reads requiring a spellcasting focus. He does not believe that casting with a verbal and somatic component requires a spellcasting focus.
It doesn't require one, but there's no hard and official rule that says that I can't use one if I don't have a.
And
that's the argument of the idea behind a spellcasting focus is whether or not I have a material component. Even if I don't need a material component, I'm still going to use the focus. Like, it's still my focus. It's still the thing I use to cast magic.
Right.
So the thing is I would just say, if that's the way that you read it, I would just add,
because that would then mean if I had a +1 spellcasting focus, all those cantrips don't get the +1.
But you normally do, and you normally would.
I would always give that +1 to those people. If you had a +1 spellcasting focus,
that's true.
Any spell you cast through it, like, I'm not going to say you don't get that on your cantrips. You're getting that on every spell you're casting.
I think I'd make the same call, honestly. I didn't know that like, you can get it. I didn't even think about it.
I would even dare to see if there's like a Crawford ruling on something like that, because that would make a lot of frustrating sense to me if that was the way that it worked. Like,
so I would just say that, honestly, Pokeniner, if that's the way you say, honestly, it would just be easy to just add in whenever you need a spell focus or material, whenever you how about this? You could just change this part right here to whenever you replace a material component with your spell focus.
Okay, sure,
done. That's all you'd have to write here, is just whenever you replace a material component with your jeweler's toolkit as the spell focus, you can do the following. Because that would solve anyone who reads because this is the problem with D&D, right? If you get a player,
there's a lot of
or if this goes into the hands of a DM who doesn't read the rule the same way as you do, and it doesn't get used with the intent, it could end up not working, right? So the way to just guarantee that everyone's on the same page is just put in a couple extra words that just says whenever you're replacing the material components, because that way there's no question. No matter how you read the rules, because some people might read that like Pokeniner and go, well, that's redundant. That's always, so they're just going to look at it as redundant. But someone like us, we're not going to have any questions. We're not even going to think about when you use a spell focus. We're just going to say, okay, whenever there's a material component and it's been replaced.
Yeah.
Because then at that point, when you say cantrip, you're like, well, you're not replacing anything, right? You can literally bake it into that. So that would be my bridge and my simple solution. Saying you use a spellcasting focus, it can only be used as a material since that's the rules of it. Yeah. So again, I think it just comes down to how people would interpret the rules. But a few words, and then nobody, depending on however you read the rules, this would clear that up, right?
I 100% agree.
And then it would work 100%. As intended. So, but yeah, otherwise, again, I don't mind it. I think, if we know that it can only be done with spells that have material components, then it does help balance it out.
Yeah.
And especially for a half caster. The difference of spellcasting boosters is that it's the attunement's boost to the character. But you're not attuned to spellcasting focus, right? I gotta go use the restroom before you flow.
Yeah, go ahead. The difference of spellcasting boosters is that the attunement. So you're saying that anything. That's actually an interesting question. I don't think I've ever looked that up before. I guess the majority of +1s do require attunement. I don't know how much on board I am with that mentality. I get what that means, but if I am gaining it through this focus, then being able to do that,
I think my same issue though is like, that's like saying that if I attune to a +1 sword, my punches have +1. If I attune to a +1 shield, I just automatically, you know what I mean? Like,
that's a fair point.
If the attunement gives me the bonus,
that's a fair point.
Then I should get the bonus regardless if I use the item. So if I get the +1 to all spells, as long as my arcane focus is touching me, right? As long as it's on me, but I'm not using it, then why doesn't my sheathed sword give my punches a +1?
That's a very fair point. I knew there was something that I was like it kind of makes sense, but.
So that's my only argument against that. Again, I'm not. Yeah. I mean, and again, this is the lovely part about it is there's a bunch of different ways to approach D&D. We're not telling you you're wrong, Pokeniner. We're trying to get to that middle of how do we make this work for anybody who picks it up. I want them
as clear as possible.
Yeah, I want them to get what the objective is. And that's why I say, like, just change the wording to just say when you replace it, because then everyone's on the same page. I don't disagree with it. I just want to make sure that we all read it.
And if it does work like that, I think that's Gucci.
Oh yeah, no, I
because
think it's great.
unless you start making a whole bunch of cantrips with material components just for this purpose, oh, I'm gonna make all these Homer ones just so then.
And yeah, so I think it's balanced. I think it works as is. I think it's just that slight bit confusion of how you read the rules. That's the only thing that's
sure.
But okay, so let's move on to anything between 5 and 9 on the core that
5
would change our opinions.
9.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of like, I feel like there's a lot of disconnect sometimes when we try to do this, where we read the core and try to see like how it helps or doesn't help the subclass. And I feel like very rarely does it matter. Like, I you know what I mean? I'm starting to realize that the subclasses and the core classes, while there's some synergy, there's not a lot of relationship.
A lot of the times there is some disconnect from them because I feel like a lot of the core classes are trying so hard to be applicable to every one of the subclasses, you know? And so it's like...
And subclasses aren't built off the core features. They're built to do
whatever. Yes, I feel like if
a
lot more of the subclasses were like incorporated core features, you know, like, what was it? I think it's the rogues, because one of their core features is their, being able to do everything as a bonus action. What's that called?
Oh, why suddenly do I know?
That's what I'm saying.
Cutting action. There we go.
Yes, the cutting action.
Jesus Christ.
Like being able to like use your cutting action if your subclass capitalized on that the most, like you would feel a lot more in tuned and incorporated.
Like what we did with, you know, Echo Knight, trying to like really incorporate yeah. And that's the thing too, is like, I know it would make it more, I mean, I know the whole point of subclasses is to have the variety, but even if the core classes had like 2 options for each level, just 2 core, you know, like at level 5 you get A or B.
You talking about or sub?
Yeah, so like fighter, just fighter at level 5 would get extra attack or a +2 to AC. You get to choose based on the subclass. So the core class is very still simplified, but each one would give you like a different. So a fighter,
I do kind of like that,
could have attack or defense, right? Magicians could, like wizards or spellcasters, could get more spells or more magic, like more proficiency points to do more.
Right.
Like balance each choice out to where when you're building the subclass, the core feature can be chosen to benefit the subclass, and when you're creating subclasses, you can create them to hone in on one side or the other, right? So you could literally have 2 fighters.
This is some ADMG shit right here.
Like imagine being able to have 2 people, 2 subclass, the same subclass, but 2 different builds. Because you and I are the same subclass of fighter, but you took the extra attack, I took the extra defense, like the extra AC.
Right.
Later down the road, you took a different route.
Again, this goes back to one of your points that you made forever ago, which is it would mean that like you can meet 2 very different fighters even if they were the same subclass.
Exactly.
Right? And like you could see people go different routes and like do different things.
And it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to basically be a subclass within a subclass. It's just the idea of break out what fighters are all about. They're either about offense or defense, right? So you could just break out each of their levels into one of those features, right? And just try to generalize each subclass, right? Rogues could either be about damage or stealth, right? Rangers could be about movement or ranged attacks. Monks can be about movement or number of attacks, or, you know, like extra key points. So each level could have this balance out to where you could flow through each of the classes. Because I think that would just be so cool. I think it would make subclassing a lot easier.
I agree.
But yeah, anything on level 9 or up to level 9 that we care about?
Yeah. So real quick, we get tool expertise. Your proficiency bonus is doubled for any ability checks made with tools you're proficient in.
Oh,
so you're literally just got expertise in every single tool set you have.
Whew, yeah, that's huge. That is one of the best things you can get. So any artificer subclass that like really hones in on those.
Sure.
So that's, again, maybe that's a reason why it makes more sense not to give expertise early.
And that's fair. And that's fair enough.
For Artificer, at least for this class.
And again, that is just for this subclass, though. I do think that just as a general rule, it could be a good thing. But I do love that artificers get that, because that's what they're all about. They're all about tools.
No, and it makes it makes better sense for this build too, especially because all of this stuff is going to be based on, trying to buff out the party. So you basically don't want to fail.
Yes. You get Flash of Genius at level 7. You get the ability to come up with solutions under pressure. When another creature you can see within 30 feet of you makes an ability check saving throw, you can use your reaction to add your intelligence modifier to the roll.
Oh wow, that goes right in line with this actually. So those are hugely synergistic.
Yes, yeah,
Okay,
especially with
that's
this earlier
great.
feature. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier. My question on that, I don't remember because I've never actually gotten to this point, but can I do it after I know whether they've failed or succeeded the roll? Or is this one of those things? So it just says, when you or another creature you can see within 30 feet of you makes an ability check or saving throw, you can use your reaction to add your intelligence modifier.
So because it's a reaction, I always read that as at bare minimum, because you're reacting to the situation, it's after the roll. But that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be after or before the decision.
Yes, but I do like, especially because the way they describe it is problem solving. I can imagine one of my buddies
calculated it ahead of time.
It's one of my buddies is making like a climbing check or something like that, and maybe like I see them falling, and I'm like, oh crap, I need to do something to help fix it. And I don't know, shoot like a arrow right where their hand needs to be, so they have something to grab. Whatever, you know, something silly like that. But like being able to do something like that kind of gives me the idea that
it's before
even if they
knowing.
fail, I can. If they fail, I can help them not fail.
Interesting, because Pokeniner are saying it's before the knowing. So it's like, again, when it comes to reactions, it's weird. Like I always think a reaction is you have to see something happening to react to it.
Sure.
So the idea that you get to do it before they roll is a little weird, because again, they're doing the action.
Right.
But knowing whether, but I do always prefer, like I kind of like in situations like this, again, because it's a reaction, you don't know it's in the heat of the moment. Knowing after the roll but before the decision, I think
Kind of like what you described earlier.
I really like that. That's a good position to have, because it's one of those things where you're reacting to something, but sometimes you react and then you see that it's okay, so you kind of have a moment to like hold yourself back.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I feel like reaction should be. It's you have the moment to react, you have that moment of fight or flight, but do you actually go through with it or not?
The only explanation I could have for before the roll is something to the effect of, it's a reaction specifically because it's not my turn.
Yeah. So roll reaction, then no. Gotcha.
Specifically because it's not my turn. And so like on my buddy's turn, he's about to make that climbing check I was talking about earlier, and he's like, all right, I'm going up. And then I use my reaction to shoot the arrow out, and that gives him his bonus as he's going to attempt the check.
Which sounds weird in order of operations, because that's just premeditated, hey, I'm gonna help you out.
But it is, but it's not on my turn, which is why it's my reaction. Because he's making the check on his turn, or he's doing the thing with
but to
the
me,
opponent on his turn.
I don't know. Yeah, for me, it's weird though to call that a reaction.
Because even when you hold an action in 5th edition, that's using your reaction to set it off, right?
Really?
Yes. So if I say
That sucks.
yes, so you not only do you have to use your action to do the thing, you also have to use your reaction to set it off.
Oh, that's terrible. Why? That makes no sense. The whole point of action economy is the oh my god, it's the accumulative of what I could do. It's the, like, again, it's movement and speed. I have a speed to tell me the amount I could do, but the movement is the amount that I actually do. So saying that you have 6 seconds and you can do all of this, but if you hesitate, it costs you more to do the same thing, that you're intentionally, that hurts my brain, because that doesn't make any sense, that me waiting 2 seconds is going to somehow cost me more. Oh, that hurts my brain. Oh my god, that may be one of the worst.
only thing I can think of that it comes to their mindset on that is
so stupid.
Is it just means you can't do other things you could do with your reaction because you're specifically waiting for this thing. Like that's the only mindset that I could see that they're trying to go with, because like I would say something to the effect of, if I use my reaction before this goes off, then I've broken my concentration on doing that thing.
Like that kind of makes sense,
right?
Because you're like it's almost like you're like, I'm waiting for this guy to move, so I'm not going to move. I have to stare at him to see if he moves.
Right.
To go after him.
Or if I'm like holding my bow
if someone comes
like
after,
for the shot,
and then someone comes after me and I have to move, I can see that if I use my reaction, I can see that disrupting. But I still don't think that doing the thing I was planning to do should use the reaction. But I get the mindset of like a concentration check, but still like, and I know that reactions are treated differently in 5th than they are in 2nd, so that's why the economy is a little bit different. But that still
No,
because it's
I get
basically
you,
saying
man.
that we all have the 6 seconds. We're all acting, but because I intentionally decided to wait, I'm using up. I mean, I guess you could also say that because you're doing that, because we all have the same 6 seconds. If I've chosen to stop, I actually have less time to react. So I guess you could say that it's squeezing my action economy. Because if I can, because I guess, okay, maybe that's their reasoning, right? Because the whole point is I can move, attack, bonus action, and reaction all in the same 6 seconds that you can. But if I'm waiting 3 of those seconds to do my main action, I no longer have time to move, act, bonus act, and react. Now I only have time to move and act. And
I will say, yeah.
Maybe that's their justification, is the longer you wait in that 6 seconds, technically you have less to do.
I will say, like, theoretically, you can do it backwards. You can do your bonus action first. You can do your movement next. And you can do your action.
But you know what I'm saying, though, right? It's like the idea that if we all act technically simultaneously in the same 6 second round.
Sure.
And I say, well, I'm going to wait till he moves to attack it. And that takes any amount of time.
Yeah.
If I'm not
I'm
doing,
using that
if I'm
time
not
that I
saying
could have.
I'm also using my bonus action right now, well, guess what? I no longer have time to do a bonus action because, again, we all had the same 6 seconds, but I chose not to. So, again, if that's their logic, at least I hope they have that explained somewhere. But even still, I kind of am okay with not using it, to be honest. Like, yes, I did take 1d10 psychic damage from that.
Wild.
Also, it lets DMs play the scene if it sees you. I mean, again, I like the idea of them prepping, though. I like the idea of, like, I really do miss segments. That's one of the things that I miss the most, is like the idea that you could see a spell charging up and have time to react to it. I really miss that, to be honest. I kind of feel like Magic is not in a bad way. Honestly, I think not damage. I think Magic's been dulled a little bit because of the loss of timing that Magic used to have. Because the way that mechanically it seems to work is pretty much everything's instantaneous. In terms of, like,
yes,
unless it's like a ritual, it's pretty much always instantaneous, same round kind of concept. And so it very feels like Magic is no longer react.
I really do wish there were spells that charged up.
I miss
at least like you could. Oh, like you might be able to, like, if it charges up for like a turn, you could spend your bonus action to like cancel that timeout or something like that. But if you don't use your bonus action, it doesn't go off until like the start of your next turn or something like that. Would be cool. That's
what I mean. It's like those to me are a lot of fun, because then those add some dynamicism, right? Especially for both sides, right? The enemies and the party, to see it happening, and instead of just be like, oh well, there's fireball, be like, shit, we have to stop him before he casts that. Right?
Or if you see where it's going, like, because I don't know how you would play it, like if they run out of the way, like, oh, you're gonna throw a fireball right there, and like maybe you just don't tell them where exactly you're gonna put it, but you're like, you see him charging up, like, what spell is he casting? Give me an Arcana check. I got a 19. Well, you pretty sure he's casting fireball, and there's like 4 of you right there. Well, which way do we run? Where's it centered? How am I gonna? All of that I like that.
That's why I kind of miss the idea of segments, because segments allowed Magic to do that. Even if you were first in initiative, but your spell took 6 segments, that means you weren't going off until Initiative 6. That means between Initiative 1 and Initiative 6, you were charging your spell, which means you had 5 initiatives after yours that someone could knock out your concentration. To me, that's way better than, oh, I got first initiative, my spell goes off. Because that's what it is, right? If you're first initiative, your spell goes off. If you're last in initiative, as long as you didn't die, your spell goes off. But in second edition, you could start your spell and immediately get fucked up. Like, if you had a 2-segment spell, but the enemy was the initiative right after yours, bam. Instant concentration break. Or no, it'd be a roll, but you know what I mean? Like, it could literally be that before your spell got off, you got attacked. So I liked that dynamicism all within the same round. But I wouldn't mind if 5th edition brought it out to
initially in second edition. Did you re-roll initiative every round?
Yes. Dynamic initiative.
Now
is
the question is,
I miss.
The question is,
I hate static initiative.
The question is, did you ever know what the other people's initiative were?
Oh yeah, I mean, it was metagame. It was definitely meta knowledge for sure.
But like, it was open knowledge.
Yeah, it was. I usually make it open knowledge for the sake of play. So
Game
it's like
flow.
if you know when it's yours, you know how much time you have to plan your next move. so everyone kind of.
But also,
was
like,
ready.
if you didn't know that the person in melee with you was right after you in combat initiative, and you're casting a spell that you think is going to go off, you know, but you don't know that that person's next to potentially break your concentration on it.
But that's why I like it too, because if you're a mage and someone's next to you in melee, it makes you question: should I cast a spell right now, or should I do, you know, what I should be doing and break distance, right? So, because to me, that's one of those things of being a mage, right? You shouldn't be casting magic right next to the, you know, someone who's like melee damage, right? Mages typically would fall back for them. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like a ranger trying to shoot someone 30 yards away when there's a swordsman right next to him.
I mean, theoretically, in 5th edition, if you try and cast any ranged spell while you're in melee combat with somebody, you have disadvantage.
Yeah,
just because of that all by itself.
And so that's probably their better way of balancing it out. So yeah, so like I said, I kind of miss it. I wouldn't mind if 5th edition just added a couple like 1 or 2 round cast spells that are super powerful. Just for some, you know, just for some cinematics, you know what I mean?
Just for a little bit of fun, man.
So crazy. But yeah, I miss that. To answer your question, Pokeniner, though, is like the idea of like, what do you mean by like suddenly the player is waiting, but for what? So traditionally, when you had the option in like older editions, like 2nd edition, to hold a reaction, you usually had to state what the action that you were planning to do is. So you had to plan out your action, and you had to state the trigger. So it wasn't like I'm just going to delay for the rest of the turn and then decide, you know, it's not like you have first initiative and you're like,
Are you talking about holding your action?
Yeah, it's not like you just get to go, I'm going to wait until I'll let you know when I'm ready to act, right? It was very specific of,
I mean, isn't there not a way to delay your initiative? Like your entire initiative?
Not in 2nd, no. The only way you can do is you can delay your action. Because again, it's the instinct of combat, right? It's the fact of initiative just means that in that 6 seconds, you were the first to move an inch, right? Because again, we're talking about like they're all like, you know, seconds apart, right? So that idea behind you're moving, you know, you're just moving right before, you know, your first step is right before your partner's first step. Like the person next to you initiative, you start running and then their next initiative, they attack. Well, you're technically running in the middle of the run while they're attacking, right?
Yeah.
You technically didn't finish your run before they attacked, which again, I feel is missed in combat. I think a lot of people forget that you aren't taking turns. When you say you dash and then attack someone and then the next person goes, you were still in the middle of your run before that person went. So I kind of, again, there's that mindset of you don't technically know if that's kind of why I'm actually thinking about shifting up the way I do combat in the future to make it more of a get everyone's account of their actions before you let them know how it rolls out. Because I think that would be a little bit more, because again, if you say you're going to dash and go attack an enemy and the archer's next and the archer's like, well, I'm not going to choose to attack until I know if that guy goes down. That's not how combat really
would
works.
you allow for things like, because in that realistic scenario, like if I'm an archer and I say I'm going to shoot this guy, yet he's running, I'm tracking him.
Yeah,
as
it's
I'm
assumed
going,
that you would be tracking
right?
him, right?
So if
That's your
he's
target.
moving as I'm doing this, right? Like, and he's going from one place to the other, like, but if that positioning makes sense, or if it has as like, how would you rule being able to still shoot at him without any sort of disadvantage?
Well, I mean, again, that's already part of that's already baked into your ability to shoot. I mean, you're a trained fighter, you can shoot a moving target. Like to me, it's already built into the turn roll, right? If someone dashes and then they stop and then you shoot them, that's already baked into the fact that it was all part of the same like system. It was all part of the same time frame. I don't see that as any different. It's just, we look at it as you ran, you stopped, then I shot.
Sure.
But in the game's mechanics, technically you were running as I shot you, but I knew where you were headed. I shot where you were going, not where you are. That's how a ranged fighter fights. They know to do that. I don't think I need to add a extra layer of difficulty because the game already knows that's happening. They just don't express it that way.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like that's why it's hard for players to understand this concept of, that's why there's the meme of, oh wait, I have to wait for you. But reality is this is metagaming. We play all the time with meta. Like any player who really says, I don't do any metagaming, you do. Because if you wait till your initiative to say what you've done and wait for all the damage, you're metagaming.
Yeah.
Because you aren't officially taking turns. But that's okay. That's how the game is designed. It's designed to work that way so everyone has their moment. But I don't want to take that away. and I don't want to make a complicated way where I would expect anybody to play this way.
Sure.
But I am looking to experience a different type of combat where it rolls out a little bit more fluidly, to where setups are a little bit easier. Like, how many times have you tried to do a thing where, like, hey, me and my party member, we have this really cool tactic we want to do, but you either can't get the right initiative order, or you go to set it up and then the enemy just does something and totally fucks it up. But if it's all happening at the same time, you might have a better way of explaining this is what we're trying to set up, and there might be a better opportunity for it, right? Because a lot of times when you're doing things one step at a time, one step can get out of place. But if it's all kind of like, again, the idea of, like, you were saying, I'm going to shoot this guy, you know, but someone's like, oh, he's going to shoot him, I want to help him out, right? Like, how can I get the guy, you know, to stop moving? Or so, you know, like, you want to get someone out of cover so the archer can target him, right? So the archer, if someone's behind cover and they're in melee combat with a party member, they're just going to go into combat, and then the archer's going to do his thing. But if you think about it more in a dynamic aspect, that fighter could try to force the person out of cover to allow a better shot for the ranger. That kind of tactic isn't always thought of when you're thinking of it as it's my turn versus their turn. But if you're thinking of it as a conglomeration, you might get more tactic out of it. So it's not something that I want to overcomplicate, but it is something I want to play with.
Sure.
Because I think more diversity could happen with tactics between players if they're thinking about acting at the same time instead of after.
What limits would you put on them being able to actually interact with each other to develop those things?
It would be the initiative order. If you're too far in initiative, it would be too difficult for you to set up. But if you're right next to it or on the same initiative, you have way more options.
What if you're, like, physically next to each other?
It depends. I like I said, it wouldn't be super complicated, but the whole point is to get them to, I want my party to think of combat differently personally. But yeah, that's just, it's something I'm working on. It's not something that I would highly suggest for anybody. It's not something I would put in, like, the ADMG unless I really perfected it. It's just something I want to play with because I like this idea of more of the cinematic of combat. Everyone get to say what they're trying to do and then play it out like a cinematic, right? Because
like how
how many times are you like, well, there's 3 enemies, well, which one's still up? How many times you get that question from somebody? Well, what's still up? It's like, but that's not what you would be doing. Your character would already be in the middle of a swing. You wouldn't be like, you attack, arrow, he's down, I'm gonna go over here now. You would have already. So I kind of like that idea of being able to have those moments where 3 people attack the same guy and maybe he goes down halfway, but you're all still going to hit your swing. It kind of sucks when you're like, well, I plan on attacking this guy, and then the arrow comes in and he's dead. And you're like, well, I'm not going to attack him now. You're like, but your character technically would, because your character doesn't wait for the arrow to hit him and him hit the ground. You know, in a fight, you're just going to go until he hits the ground.
Yeah.
And he doesn't hit the ground until the end of the 6 seconds. So it's like,
depending on how often that happens to a character, that can start to feel real bad.
But that's where, again, it's how you control combat. 5th edition wouldn't be designed for it because 5th edition's too robotic. It's too by the number. I think 2nd edition would handle it way better because it's much more narrative based. 5th edition, I think it's too by the numbers. I think it's too algorithmic to work out fluidly, which is why I think I can do it in high point. That's why I'm not going to suggest anybody try it.
Sure.
Because I don't think 5th edition's
built for
it's not built for it, not the way that it would not, because again, it's all combat focused, so it's just not really engineered to have a dynamic story in combat. Combat is really designed to be mechanical. Everything else is supposed to have the story. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I think that's why I would be able to try to do it like in 2nd, but that's about where it would happen. We have a question from Cart. Would you consider Gordon Ramsay a fae, fiend, demonic, undead, human aberration, demigod, dragon? What would you consider Gordon Ramsay? Like with a real life Gordon Ramsay? More, I mean,
if I am trying to say with what I know of him as an individual, what can I most see him as?
They are demigod because he's not evil enough to really be a fiend or a demonic. He has a different way. So that's why I say like Fae, he has a much different way of approaching, you know, his responses, and he pulls the best out of you. It may not be in the best way possible.
I honestly, lightweight I kind of want to say a dragon. I kind of want to say a dragon because, you know, he's got his own horde of types, right? He's got his specialty, his thing that he like hones freaking in on. I could definitely see Fae, but maybe even like I guess demigod would be
I mean, maybe demigod because of his prowess, but I don't know. I mean, Fae I think makes the most sense just because, again, if you just look at it from the character that he is, his approach is very non-standard.
Yeah.
But it gets the job done. So I can kind of see that in how the Fae work. You never quite know what their approach is. I think a lot of people would say fiend or demonic just because of how mean and toxic he is, but he's not actually an evil person. Like, everything he does is really
a good dude.
Right, yeah.
I really think so.
He just has that character. Human aberration, I could see that because he is a character, like, you know, outside of the real. I don't think he is deserving enough of dragon. I don't, you know, he has talent, but I don't personally think he has the prestige and the, like, I don't think he honestly deserves dragon title.
Yeah, sure.
So I would give him demigod or Fae. I would be okay giving him the powers of the chef, but working in ways that we normally wouldn't understand. That's why I would be okay with those two descriptions.
Okay.
A human who even scares the scariest species. Pretty much, yeah. Right. All right, cool. So where were we? We were talking about the creative appraisal. Okay, yeah. So we went on a bit of a tangent.
Did we not get? Oh no. Oh, that's because we were going through the subclass features.
Yeah, and then we went on a tangent there.
Yeah. He gets an ability score improvement, and then that's it. We're back to ninth level.
All right, so cutting back now to
bringing it back
to the review. All right, so let's start at going to level 9, Enamoring Grain. You've harnessed the magic within you. Oh, sorry. You've harnessed the magic within your jewelry to aid your allies in times of dire need. I thought we've already done that, but okay. After a creature uses a granted feature from the Priest of Lucky Cuts jewelry. Okay, so after they've used its once a day ability, and we always love a callback, they can use their reaction to magically teleport up to 15 feet to an unoccupied space they can see. So now you're giving them the free use of either of the, you're giving them 2 free uses of these per day. And now whenever they use it, you're giving them 2 free teleports with using a reaction. So basically, whenever they use one of the rings that you gave them for one of those 2 abilities, they can also use a reaction to teleport up to 15 feet. Interesting.
I do love the ability to teleport. This does increase the usability of the ring, which means
you have to use the ring. You have to use it for its intended purpose.
No, you have 2 uses of this ring.
Yes,
because you have 2 abilities.
Yes, so you have 2 teleports.
Now, here's the deal. How often are you going to make a charisma check and want to teleport?
Well, yeah, it's going to be used for the other one. It's not going to really be used for that. Yeah.
But
oh my god, you know how funny that would be though? I would absolutely do it if I'm like sitting there trying to haggle for something and it's like something stupid that I shouldn't even be haggling for, and then I'm like, fuck it. You know, I think it should be a little bit better, and then I get a roll and then I crit fail. Be like, I failed even with this. I teleport. I leave you. I just teleport out of the shop and walk away.
I like the idea if I'm trying to do.
Yes, the embarrassing moment. You're just like, I teleport away. I leave. I don't want to be looked at.
I like the idea if you're trying to do like an intimidation check and you use this to increase your intimidation check and you teleport behind them and you just like whisper gently in your ear.
Good.
You really want to give me this better price.
That actually might be one of the best uses of it. Period. Is just every time, just be like. Every time. Oh, that would be okay. That would be kind of dope.
That would be crazy.
So Enamoring Grain, they get a teleport every time whenever they use the piece of their jewelry, as long as they have a reaction. How do you feel? Like again, it's one of those things. I don't dislike the ability. I'm having a hard time tying it to the build.
I will say this: if I'm using my big attack, if I don't kill them, do I want to teleport?
I mean, if it's on like a rogue, if like a free disengage, you know what I mean? Or if you're in one of those locked combat situations where you can't disengage, So you just use this to be able to
But
break.
like if I'm the barbarian and I'm like the tank, I'm the one who wants to be up in their grill. And if I'm trying to keep the aggro away from other
you
people,
wouldn't use it to get away, but if you did kill someone, you'd use it to teleport closer to your next target. So again, it's not going to be used on every time. It's
but if I only get it once a day, what's the likelihood that I'm gonna use it? What's the likelihood that when I use it, I'm gonna want to use this ability? You know, and so that would be my only thing. Is it's like
it's almost too situational.
It feels like it almost. I felt like it would be cooler if it helped you do whatever this is better or something like that. Like,
because at first when I was reading it, I almost thought it was going to say they can use it. When I was right here, I was expecting to read they can use their reaction to recharge it. But then I'm like, no, that's be too powerful just to just. But I was thinking like, yeah, would they be able to do something? So, because I mean, again, enamoring grain, I wouldn't be like, because again, you've harnessed the magic within your jewelry. Like again, I wouldn't mind it if this gave the artificer an ability to recharge it before the day's out.
Especially because it says aid your allies in times of dire need. What if it give you 10 pimp points or something like that? Like, because if you just had some extra, especially after attacking somebody like that, 10 hit points is never a bad idea. I feel like it'd be way less valuable for the elegant shine one, like which you need 10 hit points when you're doing a charisma check for. But
and saving throws, yeah. And
I mean, shoot, what if elegant shine had the teleport and empowering glow had the 10 pit points? But
yeah, I kind of agree. I wouldn't mind it either.
Attack roll or saving throws,
because it's a skill check. It's a charisma. So some people can attack with their charisma, right? Aren't there charisma attackers?
Yeah, but that's not a skill check. Does it say
any? Well, it says any charisma skill check. So maybe they meant
so, but skill checks. But skill checks are very different than attack rolls and saving throws. So that's what I'm confused. It says shine.
Oh, no, glow. He meant glow. Glow is only for...
glow. Yeah. Glow is specifically for attack. So glow would be in combat situations, and then shine would be in social situations. So,
okay. So I love that we're tying it back to here. We always love to see that.
I
do agree with Kage saying that it should either empower this or increase what the artificer can do with it. I feel like the teleport is just not hitting the mark with me on synergy. It's a great ability,
yes,
but why is it coming from this artificer? Like where is it coming from? Because so far the artificer's been about imbuing this, but now all of a sudden the imbuement just teleports as well. Like it just doesn't doesn't fit right.
Just kind of why I liked our idea earlier about being to select what it can do. Like imagine if you could give, like, you know how we were talking about giving it more options of things it could do other than just the shine and the glow. Like this, imagine if this is another one of the things that it can do, right?
It can allow them to teleport as a reaction. And again, this could just be,
then they could just use it when they want to.
How would you feel about this? What if it just says, like, starting at level 9, when you create an item, like, because it already did 2 of them, right? It just basically, when you create a piece of jewelry using lucky cuts, add the following ability to the list of abilities. And so once per day, it can empower glow. Once per day, it can epic shine or elegant shine. And once per day, as a reaction, the wearer can teleport up to 15 feet. All 3 you get once per day.
I like that.
Like that would make,
I like that.
And even at that point, at level 9, add 1 more. Add invisibility, add temp HP. Say as a reaction, they can, have temp HP or a +2 AC, right? Like, I don't mind the fact of if level 9 just said when you create your item, add 1 or 2 more effects.
Sure.
I think that makes more sense than
I like that, especially at level 9. Like, because give it more utility, give it more ability to do more things.
Yeah, unless it's gonna bump what the other ones can already do, it should just expand what the artificer's giving them. Because this one just feels a little bit, I don't know, the way it's written. I know it's kind of the same thing by just saying they can also do that, but I kind of like the idea of it's standalone.
The problem is it's tied to them using the other feature, and the value of it coming out at that point in time for me is low.
Yeah, and because even going behind the creature that you just attacked as benefit. you don't get like an extra attack on him or anything. So
I mean, unless you are a fighter and you get another attack and you can say, because I teleported, I get advantage, but there's no mechanic for that.
Yeah, you'd have to bake that
right
in. So I would say that if it was a standalone ability, that would even make it more versatile. It would make the jewelry more beneficial. And again, it would tie back into the whole purpose of you're getting better at making jewelry.
Yeah, I agree.
Or you can even say, you know, again, level 9, I would say add the teleport, add maybe one other option. I don't mind a temp HP option. Like at any point, they can just, you know, get, because temp HP isn't too bad, but it could keep you from dying. You know what I mean? Like, hell, you could take that final blow of damage and as a reaction right before you die, temp HP so you don't go to saving throws.
Sure.
Like, you know what I mean? It could just be just that to where it just keeps you from going down one extra turn. Or when you get back up on your feet, use a reaction to go from 1 to 11. Just to not be at 1 HP when you save out. When you save out.
I mean, you could even change the temp HP to just like reduce the damage of a strike.
Yeah,
you know, type deal.
Just as a
there's
reaction.
Plenty of stuff that does that.
I could do that. Souls made 11 out of the 61 Ben 10.
Oh my gosh, 61. 61.
That's gonna have to be its own like whole
little
thing.
series.
Yeah, that's gonna have to be a whole series.
That's fire. That's wild.
All right, so yeah, so I don't mind the teleport. I do agree with Kage. I think the biggest holdup is that it's tied to the other ability. I think it would be cool if it just added as a third option, or as a third ability.
Yeah, agreed.
Because then again, however many people in your party have it, can you imagine just, man, imagine your fighter with all their attacks being able to just every single time. So like, imagine they have like, you know what, 5 attacks, and they have all of their, you know, they just every round they could like attack, use the thing, and then teleport. And
oh,
just,
yeah.
Like just the abilities of them to be able to like utilize this attack after attack after attack and then just move around the battlefield would be kind of cool. And if you had like 5 of these rings, just, man, 5 different attacks with the D4, with a teleport to the next enemy, you could just bow, 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 bow.
But I do like that you can tie it to your action economy here. I know the earlier ones were free actions, so that's because of what they're already a part of something that's included in action economy.
Yeah.
So these ones taking like your reaction, I totally am cool with that.
Yeah, but otherwise, yeah, I like the ability. I think it's just how you get it. I think it could just be a little bit more powerful than being. And then at level 15, we get Brilliant Finish. Anything we need to know between now and this is the last ability, so anything we need to know either before or after this for capstone purposes?
I know you get Magic Item Adept. You can now attune to up to 4 magic items at once
instead of 3.
Instead of 3, if you craft a magic item with a rarity of common or uncommon, it takes you a quarter of the normal time, so you can just craft common stuff easier. You get spell storing item at 11th level. You learn how to store a spell in an object, which is pretty cool. And then Magic Savant at 14. Your skill with magic deepens more. You can attune to up to 5 items. You ignore all class, race, and spell level requirements when it comes to attuning.
Okay.
It does not say you ignore alignment though.
Gotcha.
Just class, race, which I kind of like. And then, yep, that's it. 15.
So I'm starting to think of another capstone that would be really good at 20. Because what's their capstone? What's their official capstone after this?
Their 20th level is Soul Artifice. You gain a +1 bonus to all saving throws per magic item you are currently attuned to. If you'd reduce to 0 hit points but not killed outright, you can use your reaction to end one of your Artificer infusions, causing you to drop to 1 hit point instead. And so that's kind of crazy because you can do that as many infusions as you have. And at 20th level,
like 7? 6 or 7?
6.
So another interesting thing that I was just thinking for this particular subclass, a cool like alternative capstone would be, because you know how you can have as many items out equal to your intelligence modifier. What if as an alternative capstone for this one, or an additional at 20th level, you can permanently create, or you can turn one of your like cuts, like what do we call them, the lucky cuts. You can turn a number of your lucky cuts into permanent magical items equal to like your constitution modifier. So like essentially you could have the 5 that are temporary, but you could also technically make 3 that are permanent and then still have the 5 that are rotating.
So would that mean once you've made your third one, you don't get to make any more ever? Or could
No, you just make 3 permanent, and then you just every time you make a new one of the 5 get canceled out again. So you still have the 5 that are, the 4 or 5.
But I mean, like your permanent ones. So like if I have my 5 in rotation,
yeah,
and then you have the 3, right? So I made my third permanent one.
Yeah.
After I made that third permanent one, because they're permanent,
that's it. You're done. You just made 3 permanent.
Don't get to make any more permanent ones.
But they don't matter to the rotation.
They don't go through the number of the 5 that you
I don't know why that would be any beneficial, but it just sounds kind of more interesting as a capstone. Because again, I always think that subclasses deserve better capstones.
Sure.
So that would sound like a kind of a cool capstone of just being able to have 3 extra items, but that's it. Once you've created those 3, but that would be, I think, more beneficial if you had like the chosen abilities. I think that would make more sense, where I make this permanent item and it has this one ability
right.
versus this one. But at the same time, it just basically means that you can add 3, magical items. So
yeah,
I still don't think that'd be terrible. But again, I think that the capstones are fine for the core classes, but I think subclasses get kind of
sure juked on it.
Well, because that's the whole point, right? The subclass is my specialty, but no specialty really capstones.
I mean,
a lot of them feel like there are quite a few. I will say not a lot.
There are some cool ones.
I won't say the majority, but there are quite a few that do feel good. By the time you get to level 18, you feel like you've figured out your subclass. But there are some, I would say the majority, at least 60%, just kind of feel like they just don't see it through.
For sure.
That's me. That's my person. All right. Well, Brilliant Finish is going to be our level 15 for the subclass. Your expertise in jewel craft allows you to create gemstones that are ingrained with magical favor. When a creature is wearing a piece of your Lucky Cuts jewelry, the creature can also use the following granted features. Finally, we get more granted features. This is exactly what we were talking about. 4 of the 13 get T4 capstones, which is sad. Yeah, we hate that shit. I hate that. All right, so we get 2 additional abilities, which is exactly what we were just talking about. We were hoping for this. So Enhanced Dust. As a bonus action, the creature can crush the trinket stone, gaining a bonus to their next attack roll or saving throw equal to the maximum roll of your Lucky Cuts dice. Would it be easier just to say that they can basically sacrifice it and get advantage? Because basically it's saying that they can take the jewel, destroy it, and they get this bonus. But it's just the maximum roll of the dice. I don't know if it would just be easier in all general ways just to give advantage on the next attack.
I mean, I personally, especially if I'm destroying it, I would like something like
the die can be up to +10, right? Like the die can be up to
I would like to be a static +10, not a roll.
Oh, just a plus. Ooh.
If I'm destroying it, like you can get a static +10 from
it does say
a feat.
It does say equal to the cuts die, and basically at this level it would be
it's
a 10.
Equal to the maximum roll.
Yeah, so it would be equal to a 10 at this point. At this level, you'd be throwing out because at 15th level,
yeah.
15th level. At 15th level, it would be an 8, and at 17th it's a 10. So, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So right now, at level 15, you start giving you break it, you get a guaranteed 8. Okay. And then in 2 more levels, you get a guaranteed 10. That actually, that feels good.
Okay.
That doesn't feel bad. I like that it also continues to go up. Like, again, it doesn't capstone right here and now.
Sure.
So I like that.
I want to know what the next one is, because this is one of those things where you want to save it for last. If it works the way Pokeniner originally described, where you have all of these as an option, right?
Yeah.
Like you're going to have all 4 of these now into all of your Lucky Cuts. If that's the way this works, I'm going to want to use this one last, obviously.
Well, yeah, you're literally sacrificing it. So this is like a last ditch effort. And because you're shattering the stone. You're literally
Lucky Cuts. How long does it take me to create one? Can I create one over a short rest, a long rest? Like,
take an action to create one. I think it should take longer than an action, to be honest.
Then I could be in the middle of combat and Jimmy rig one of these together and throw you another one.
I'm assuming that you already own the jewelry. You're just imbuing it. But it's an action with the tools. Yeah, maybe I would say maybe it takes. I mean, I don't know, because you know, you'd have to say that you already have the jewelry. You're not creating jewelry. You're just throwing the magic in.
Sure.
So in that particular case, yeah.
I would probably say like you can create a number of these over a short rest or something like that. Okay. Just so you're not like doing it in the middle of combat.
I do like destroying it for the bonus though.
I do like destroy, but if you're gonna destroy it, then it's honestly
destroyed. Yeah. It's basically it's off the list until another one's created. So I totally get that.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would just, to be completely honest, I like the bonus action. I like the maximum die roll. Honestly, at this level, especially for Capstone, get rid of the attack roll or saving throw. Just say you get that +10 on the next roll. Period. Just let them have a +10. Honestly, if it's to damage, like if they crush it and say on this next attack, I'm adding the +10 to my damage. Like whatever you want, right? Honestly, I don't know why bother. If they're destroying the damn item, I would just give them that solid 10 to any roll. Because honestly, what roll could really be that devastating?
Sure.
For just 10, right? You want to add it to, if you want to add it to damage,
especially at level 15.
Yeah. Add it to damage, add it to saving throw, add it to attack roll, add it to a skill check. I don't care. If you're destroying the magical item, like you're basically imbuing whatever it is you're doing with magic. So I wouldn't be too bad about that.
Also, this is a bonus action, so it has to be on your turn and it has to be very intentional. It's not like as a reaction. It's not like in the middle of something. You have to do this very, very intentionally and very purposefully. And it is the next one you make. So, you know.
Yeah. So like I said, and you know, it's a bonus action. So it's kind of like, you know, yeah. So
would you put a time limit on it? Theoretically,
honestly, I think this reads as a bonus action. I kind of feel like it's like in the same turn. Like I would assume it's like in the same turn.
So if I did this at the end of my turn in the hopes that
the next turn
I'm gonna need a saving throw in the next turn, and I want to make sure like they're gonna attack me. I know they're gonna target me, and then all of a sudden they don't target me. Did I just waste it?
Well, no, because obviously as a bonus action, that would be a reaction, right? If it was in like response to something, it'd be more like a reaction. But because it's a bonus action, you kind of have to do it ahead of time.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And you have to do it on your turn. Like
so that's the question is like, especially so if it's gonna help me for a saving throw, I have to do it ahead of time. I have to be preparing.
But this reads it's your next attack or saving throw, so it doesn't matter how long you wait.
That's my question: is would you put a cap on that time limit? Could it be an hour? Could it be 2 hours? Could it be 3 days?
Honestly, I just put the cap until the item's recreated, because essentially you destroyed it. You're holding on to the potential, but once the Artificer creates a new item,
sure,
he has to use that potential. So I would.
Okay.
I mean, I would probably, if I were creating it, yeah, I'd probably have a smaller time limit on how long the magic is usable. But in general, as I read this, it's held until your next action.
I would just rule it personally. If this is done during combat, I would say when the combat is over.
So just by the end of combat.
By the end of combat, right? But if it's done out of combat, like say you want to do it for like a social check or something like that, or if you want to do it for, I don't know, something else. I don't know. I'd probably give it like a couple hours.
Okay.
Like, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but
okay. But yeah, but in general, being able to get a flat bonus, I kind of like that. Like I think that's solid, especially at this level. It's kind of one of those. There's no questions about it. That's like you're gonna sacrifice it for a guaranteed like benefit, right? Because if you had this on a roll, you could, like what you say, it feels bad when you sacrifice it and you still roll a 1.
Yeah.
It's like, what was the point? So having a guaranteed roll, I'm down for that. You also get Shattering Sparkle. And again, so the Enhancing Dusk, while it's one of the abilities it can do, it is the final ability that piece of jewelry can do. So keep that in mind. It is the final ability. So Shattering Sparkle, as an action, the creature can throw the jewelry at a space they can see within 30 feet, shattering it where it lands. Creatures within a 15-foot radius of the jewelry must make a dexterity saving throw against your spell save DC. On a failed save, they take 6d6 force damage and half damage on success.
So it's a little bomb. So both of them destroy it.
Yes. So both of these finals destroy the item that you're carrying, either to benefit you or to damage a very large amount of creatures.
What's the area again?
15
radius. just under a fireball.
That's huge. And then and just under fireball damage too, 66 versus 86.
Yeah.
And then destroying one of your jewelries is a way to magically destroying one of your jewelry this way is magically draining. When one of your lucky cut jewelry is destroyed using this granted feature, you cannot craft a replacement until you finish a long rest.
Okay.
So there's a small limit there, which that at least makes sense.
Sure, especially because it's a capstone ability type deal.
That one does make sense. That's a hell of a lot of damage, but at the same time, I mean, that's basically like a wand of fireball. It's just as disposable. And
sure,
those aren't necessarily unheard of. It is a one-time only, so I do like that. I mean, at
least into your next long rest, which is fine.
And I do like that it takes an action. It's not like I can just like toss this behind me or anything. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That an action economy is preserved in this particular case. I
might like enchanting dust to be able to be done as a reaction if like someone's casting a fireball at me and I don't know that's happening. Crush, and it'll give me a much better chance on my dexterity saving throw, something like that.
Yeah, I can kind of dig that.
I know there's been a lot of reaction stuff in this build already, but
it's kind of hard to think that reacting is like you could crush a gem as a quick reaction, right?
Right.
Like, that seems a little bit more intentional.
Sure.
So I could see that. But with the Shattering Sparkle, now this is the first time that I want to circle back to our original idea that like the materials could have mattered. And again, I know this isn't really a 5th edition thing, but now I almost want to like tie that back into where if you did like a material like connection to where if you make it out of this, it has
it would explode different types of damage,
right? Like if it's an amethyst, it has fire damage.
What damage does it say it does?
It's just
force damage. Got it.
It's force damage.
Okay.
So you know what I mean? Like it would be
generic,
kind of interesting if you could change, but either way, that would just add more complexity to it. So
out of curiosity, it's a 15-foot what? Is it a 15-foot sphere, cube, square?
Radius. I'm assuming sphere.
Sphere.
Whenever I hear radius, I assume sphere.
Generally speaking, I do too, but like when it comes to plant growth, that's specifically a 20-foot square.
Yeah. I think when I immediately assume a radius when it's not specified.
When it's not specified. Okay, that's fair enough.
So the whole build is intended to give your party members basically an additional action, bonus action, and reaction by the time this is all said.
Interesting.
So the ring itself is supposed to provide them with an additional option for each of those.
For each one of those things. Okay.
So yeah, I don't mind where this
free
all
action
went.
too.
Yeah, I really don't mind where all of this went. There were a couple areas where again it's hard to just tie it back to the build outside of it's a buff.
Sure.
You know, but otherwise it's pretty solid. I'm really happy because I know that we've seen in D&D like the potion makers. Like we've seen builds that are specific to that.
Sure.
I'm really happy to see a build that is a like
jewelry maker, basically.
Item maker. Yeah, I love the idea of a trinket maker. It's really well thought out. I do like the spells. I think like the aspect of what it is as a half caster is really great. I think the idea of creating the jewelry is good. I do like the destruction being at the end. I kind of like the fact that they just, they're not powerful enough to do anything when destroyed. So,
sure.
I kind of like that waits. I still think that honestly, now that we see those two at the end, I kind of want to double down on the fact that the teleport should just be an added, just another added feature.
Agree.
Just let it be as a reaction. You can just do that.
And then it's more sacrificial. It's more beneficial when you destroy it. It's more like, yeah, I'm giving up all these other things if I did have them.
Yeah.
At least until the next long rest.
Because if you think about it, these two don't require anything to do, right? They just have it on and no action required. They can just do both of those ones.
You can add a bonus. Okay, I thought it was a bonus action.
So both of these are just permanent.
Free action. Yep.
This one, if we added the teleport to as a reaction, and then this is a bonus action and an action. So realistically, Pokeniner, like that would be the biggest thing is just change up the enamoring grain to allow them to teleport as a reaction once per day, And that would give you all 3 layers. It would give you a bonus action, action, and a reaction, and 2 free actions. Like, it would just like stack. In testing before the changes, it was scary when players found ways to spam. But to be honest, that's 5th edition, like, in a nutshell. Everything is scary once you know how to spam it. Like, that's
why we were the most concerned about being able to use that on your cantrips.
Exactly. So I honestly, I anything can truly be spammed, but again, it depends on how you play it, right? Like, we don't approach it in that way. I would love to play this. I would love to have this on the team because this is a great way to build out a party and play. But true, if you're just going to build out for the spam, then there's nothing to stop that.
You're only going to use each one of these once a day.
Yeah.
Right. And theoretically, you could use all of them on one turn.
And theoretically, one character.
Well, not the last 2. The last 2, you could only do it.
And true, theoretically, you could put this all in one character or all on yourself, but you could also spread it out among the party. I mean, my biggest thing is worrying about if something can be spammed in the build. The only time I think we truly worry about that is if it basically leans into the fact of why would I do anything else?
Yes.
Like why we kind of
like disagree. The cantrips. Yep.
Yeah, like Eldritch Blast being a cantrip. Like, why would you choose anything else in a combat focused game, right? So in the sense that yes, these could be spammed in the right situation, I don't think that's any case to worry unless the spam that you're providing is basically the rest of the build says, yeah, you need to do this. And
like, really, it would make the most sense for you to do this and nothing else.
But with this build, there's so many options here that it's only going to be a min-maxer that really leans towards that. And to be honest, if you have that kind of person in your game, it doesn't matter if you let them have this homebrew or not. If they're going to do a spammy build, they're going to do a spammy build, right?
Like there's plenty of coffee locks out there that can find a way to like find something that's abusable.
So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about that because this doesn't feel like it leans into the spam. It doesn't feel like I'm being
very much
shoehorned, or I don't feel like I'm losing anything if I'm not being spammy with it. Yes, I could see why it could be that way, but I don't see it as the only route. I see so
I also
many
feel like
more
you kind of have to work hard to find a way to spam this. Like, it's not made for that.
Yeah. So I think what you have here is really good. I do think that it could just be slightly enhanced. I mean, not even in a lot of different ways. Really, what did we change? Everything was good up through level 3. I think this could just be a list of just different types of jewelry. You know what I mean? Instead of I mean, I get the idea of a roll table for flavor, but really, I mean, you could just list out all the jewelry they can make, and then it's just
have them choose.
Yeah.
Or you
even
can
the people that you're making it for. Hey, barbarian, what do you want? Well, I want a necklace. Wizard, well, I want a ring to not mess with anything, right? Like,
you cuffs.
Yeah, you could flavor it to
Bracers.
the person you're making it for. Both of these were great. I think we really liked both of these.
I will say, what did I say about that first one?
Because in Power and Glow, you get a D4, and it levels up with you.
Oh, it was how this whole ability worked. It was,
we were discussing whether or not to have this as a choose what they get, but there's not enough options, so I think it's okay to let them choose how to use it. I think that's
because
now that we see the full build.
Now that I know that you get all of these things in here, I'm okay with it being once a day. Again, the only thing I would add to the way it's written right now is more options throughout,
more option early. Like,
not necessarily here, but like we were talking about before at level 9, adding the teleport as a separate option, even potentially also at level 9 adding another one of like 10 hit points or damage reduction, something like that.
Yeah,
like,
more options overall.
I do think, like, because this is good, but again, it feels like just not enough.
Right, like just shy
of like being something that I'm gonna build this thing around, right? So that's the only thing. Like, at 3rd level, this is fine. At 3rd level, start here.
Yeah,
but like, let's get bigger.
I love this one, like being able to not just be a buff character, but enhancing yourself. I like this, being able to add damage or hit points to your spells. I'm okay with that.
Okay.
This is using the spell.
Oh, this is the upcasting.
Yeah, this is the upcasting. Love this one.
Did we say if this was?
Our suggestion was just to add the verbiage that it's when you replace a material component, this takes effect.
Got you.
I think that's the only thing that could, but that's what Pokeniner wants anyway. Like,
Yeah.
that's the intention.
That's the idea. Okay.
We just are just adding the language, but otherwise no changes. Enamoring Grain, just add it as a reaction to the ring. Just don't even add it as if you use it, just add it as one of the three aspects. Because then
the ring could do,
you would be able to use all of the abilities. You'd be able to attack with the extra D4 and teleport and use the other thing as, oh man, imagine this, right? I'm the fighter. I get multiple attacks or multiple actions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say I have like 4 actions or 4 attacks or 5 attacks, whatever you get at the end. I do all but one of my attacks. So I still have an action. So I just do slash, slash, slash. But then on my last attack, the last of the attacks I'm going to take, I add the D4 to the damage or to my attack roll.
Mm-hmm.
And then I use my reaction to teleport 15 feet away. And then I use my bonus action or my actual action to throw the ring at you.
Oh.
Because as an action, I can throw the ring and shatter it. So imagine just 1, 2, 3, and then on my 4th swing, extra damage, teleport, take that off, throw it at you, and explode. Because again, if I teleport 15 feet and I throw it right 1 foot, 5 feet behind you,
I would say there's an argument to be made, and I would love to see some shit like this. I would say there's an argument to be made to get like a surprise round on someone or advantage on somebody. If I'm doing this, if I'm like the fighter and I got like stupid attacks, I do 1, 2, 3, and I go for like that final strike and it looks like a perfect combo. And just before I do that, I teleport right in front of the BBEG and attack him instead. Like, I would say there is a...
So I now want that as a feature to like our Echo Assassin. The idea of being able to get advantage on an attack because you can change targets midway through.
It's because it really works well with multi-attack.
When you have the ability if you had to teleport. That's actually pretty dope though. Like, that needs to just be baked into a subclass somewhere. Being able to, as like an ability.
I want to create a Kurt Wagner subclass somewhere because I think that would be its core feature.
That's such a dope idea. Okay, so going back to our critique. So yeah, I would say teleport just needs to be an aspect because then it's just adding to it. And then brilliant finish. I think both of these are fine, especially as the capstone. I don't think that they're too much to ask for.
Sure.
So realistically, yeah, just adding.
Do you think you would find yourself using one more than the other, or do you think you would just really much depend on? If
I'm wearing multiple of these rings, I see definitely room for both. If I only get one, I'm only ever using Shatter Sparkle.
Imagine,
because to do that much damage in an AOE for someone who doesn't do like again, fighter, barbarian, rogue, anybody who doesn't do magic. If I'm carrying this ring, I cannot imagine any time where a single benefit of a +10 is going to outweigh more than one target taking 66.
I'll say I agree with that, with the exception of taking into account the character's personality, like who that character is. Because I know that there are plenty of characters, like Venla would probably never use Shatter Sparkle.
If you game that way, yes. But I don't typically look at it from that perspective.
And I do get that.
Because we're looking at it from a universal perspective.
Yes.
If I usually answer these questions mechanically, right?
Yes.
On a mechanical basis, if I only have one ring, I cannot imagine a time where, like, mechanically, out of game speaking, I would choose a +10 over that much damage. Like, there's just, again, even keeping myself up, I'd rather my party get me up and then I just throw the ring right. You know what I mean? Like, that damage is still so much more potential than a single time benefit. But if I have 2 rings, oh yeah, there's if I know I can still throw it and that there's going to be a chance where I can do both, I would definitely do it. But
because I'm definitely thinking this is going to be a thing where it's like, I'm going to want everybody to have, all of my party members to have one of these rings. And I might have 2 because I might not have that many party members, but I'm going to want everyone to have one. I want everyone to be able to say, hey, I could do all these little bits and bobs just as well as everybody else can.
So Pokeniner was saying that there was a 6th ability that made it too bad, like wasn't good in testing. So they brought it down to 5. What was the 6th ability? I'm really curious.
Interesting.
Because I like all of these abilities. I just, again, it's just one of those situations where the first 2 are great. If we eventually add the teleport, that's great. These last 2 as capstones to destroy it are totally fine too.
Now the question would be, if we didn't change level 9, if it stayed the way it was, would I be able to teleport when I activate one of those 2 last ones?
It does say whenever you use the feature, but because you're destroying it,
yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, I'm trying to think of like, what else would I do with this? Because really, like it's, I think the only thing I would do is maybe consider more defensive. Like other than the +10, there's not really a lot of defensive options, right? Because like the first 2, you get extra damage, and then you get a bonus on your charisma.
Yeah.
And then you get the teleport, which is somewhat defensive, and then you get these 2 attacks.
Which is kind of why I like the damage reduction one.
Yeah, so I wouldn't mind like
10 hit points either way.
10 hit points, bonus to AC, something like that. I wouldn't.
Oh, that would be kind of cool.
Just like a temporary buff to AC or something. Kind of like the shield spell, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of like some just one extra ability to be slightly more defensive to help balance it out could be interesting. The ability was another no action ability. I could see why that might be a little bit difficult to to allow. I mean, hell, if you want, no, that really wouldn't. I mean, maybe. So to add a little bit more to like what else this thing does, I was trying to think of like, what if as another ability, like once per day, if you provoke attack of opportunity, the attacker has disadvantage. So like once per day, you basically can try to disengage and give them disadvantage to hit you with their opportunity.
Oh, okay. When someone's attacking you with an opportunity attack.
Just one of those beneficial default abilities of whenever, once per day, you can choose to give an opportunity attack disadvantage.
Okay. I mean, I might not use that one as much, but I do like the idea behind it.
I mean, as an additional ability compared to what else it can do, like it's just one of those, it might help you position.
I'm just thinking that's probably the one I'm going to still have in the tank when I destroy it.
There's a high chance. Yeah. There's a high chance, but as an option, like I said, like don't replace anything, just add it as another option. I'm just trying to think of what else you could do defensively other than just straight up give AC or help. You know what I mean? Like what else defensively could you do? But being able to maneuver like that, right? Essentially get a modified version of disengage.
Yeah.
Could be kind of beneficial.
I could see that. Yeah.
And again, I'm also trying to think of like how many different classes are these abilities really going to be beneficial? Like, the D4, the +10 are all good. The Shedder is going to be great.
Yeah, that's wild. I need to stop doing that. I keep thinking of this as you being the Artificer, and how many times as an Artificer it's not just the Artificer that's going to be
who's going to be wearing it,
anybody.
who's going to be using each ability. So that's what I'm thinking of, like being able to provoke opportunity but at disadvantage one time could be great for a barbarian to move past to get to a better position, or to just if the wizard's about to go down, just give him a chance.
Definitely for a wizard, definitely for a rogue. Maybe they just don't want to use their cunning action, or they used it on something else.
They've already used it.
Yeah. It could be helpful for a lot of people. I could see the barbarian and maybe the paladin not caring, but okay. No.
So during playtesting, apparently 6 was too much for the party or for the players to look at. I guess it was just too many options. So,
interesting.
I mean, overload. I can understand.
Here's the deal. But genuinely, I look at it. I only have 3, and when I'm finna destroy it, like that's how I look at it as a player. I'm like, I have 3 options.
And I will also proffer this too. While it can be complex to figure out what I'm going to be using in what order, the only time I feel like that kind of analysis paralysis becomes an issue is when it's this or that. This isn't which one of these am I going to use? Like, should I use the +4 or it's going to be,
it's most beneficial for me to teleport right now.
Yeah, but I mean, again, even at the teleport, it's like, it's not teleport or do that D4. If I'm attacking, I can use the D4 or not.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm attacking, I could teleport or not. If I'm, doing a charisma check, I can use it or not. It's not like I use it this or that. It's yes, do it or don't. So I kind of wonder where the players' mindsets were when they were like 6 options is so much. I'm like, there's really not though. If you're attacking, there's one option.
I'll say this. It's probably because when it comes to playtesting these things, you're creating a character at X, Y, and Z level. And you're not growing up with it.
That's fair.
When you grow up with it, when you develop this character throughout your level up process, you get used to the 2 first. You know, these are my go-tos. These are the ones. It gets ingrained into my brain. It becomes a part of everything that I do. And then I add one more on top of it. It's not that big of a deal.
We only ever briefly talk about how we like go through it in our heads about how to like balance it out, but we go through a leveled up process. We think about it at every level, whereas I do think a lot of playtests probably happen at static. So that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I feel like, again, I just kind of want to understand like the feedback Pokeniner got, because the way I look at this is there's not a lot going on. Yes, there are a lot that it can do, but it's not like every time I make an action, I'm having to relook at this list. If I'm attacking, I know I can add a D4 if I want to. If I'm doing a charisma check, I know I can get a benefit if I want to. I know if I'm using one of those 2 abilities, I can teleport if I want to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like I'm having to like decide which is going to be beneficial.
It's no more complicated than if somebody cast buffing spells on you. Exactly. If somebody cast haste and bless on you at the same time and gave you a bardic inspiration, you'd have to remember you have all 3 of those things.
Yeah, but it's not like you choose one or the other. It's
right. They're all there.
Yeah. So I'm just curious because again, I would just have loved to have been in that session because I have a hard time seeing this as too many options. You know, because they don't conflict. I definitely understand that when you're like, well, should I smite or should I do this spell or should I go heal?
Or you have like 6 different types of smite you can choose to do right now.
Or which healing spell should I use? Should I burn my 3rd level spell or should I do my 2nd level and then give them a potion? Like when it conflicts with what you can do, I get analysis paralysis because you're trying to plan out if it succeeds, what happens? If it doesn't succeed, what happens? And then you have to do that for everyone, right? But this is just more of kind of like what Kage said. If I had bless or if I had guidance or if I had inspiration, it's just a yes or no choice. It's not like it's making my choice any harder. So that's just, I'm just curious. I would like to have been in that playtest.
Sure. No doubt.
Because I honestly, I'm having a hard time understanding why I would be confused on what I could do if I knew that they could only ever be triggered. And again, because they're all different abilities, the only major choice is do I do them all at once or not? Because again, there's no confliction. Some of them are free actions.
And the 2 that theoretically do conflict are both free actions, so they don't.
And they don't conflict. It's situational, right? So because you're not gonna unless you have a charisma based attack. But
again,
it's
not a skill check.
It's not a skill check.
Yeah. I was like, wait a minute.
So overall, it is not imbalanced. It's very unique. It has a really good idea. It definitely takes this class into a way that I really want it to go. So definitely it's going to get the inspiration point because this feels more like an artificer than most artificers. Like this feels like you're tinkering with magical items, like literally, not just, it doesn't feel like I'm just touching your weapon and giving you a +1 to the end of the round. You know what I mean? Like, It's not that. It's literally, I'm imbuing this with magic, but it's not just another cleric giving buff spells. Like, the control you're giving the other party members is, I think, what's key here. That's what makes this feel like an artificer. It's not just another bard or a cleric giving bonuses and buffs out in the moment. This is someone saying, I know magic. Here's how you can control it.
Yeah.
That's what like really gets this. So I'm definitely gonna give it the inspiration point for that. There's not a lot of going on in terms of balance here. Realistically, I think our 2 biggest things is just change the wording of declarative appraisal just so we all are on the same page, but no changes to what it does. I would definitely give the teleport as a reaction instead of based on the other abilities. And maybe just add one other buff, but that's already, you know, that's still 5 abilities. It's fine as it is. I just, like Kage said, it just feels like it's one tiny little thing short of being complete. And I don't know what that is, whether that's an AC boost, a health boost. I mean, hell, even if it was part of again, part of Brilliant Finish, if one of the options to destroy it, like this could sound really funny. But what if, because this one's crushing it or throwing it to destroy it, what if there was an option to consume it and it gave you health? Like literally you eat it and it dissolves in you, or something on that side where one of the options to destroy it like gives you like half your health back, or half of your hit die, so you actually have to roll, so it's not guaranteed. You know what I mean? Like, what if we got a really good, because right now this does a defensive buff, an offensive buff, but not really like a heal. Like, it would be cool to get a healing buff off of this.
I definitely like the idea of consuming it somehow, and that you could come up with a million different ways to go about doing that.
Like how that technically works, or whatever.
But consuming it to do something fairly significant, like I would definitely say it could do something like your health is now at 75%.
Yeah, just whatever your max, just
75% of your max. Like I could totally see it saying something like that,
or I mean,
or just it gives you 100 hit points, or something
or
like that.
like it gives you hit points equal, or it gives you equal to 50% of your max hit points. If this were to take you over your max, all excess is temporary. So if you have 100 hit points and you're at 90, you now have 100 but 40 temp HP. Like, just something, because again, that would make me second question whether I'm doing the 66 damage or coming back up from 0. That could change the barbarian first rages, pops that ring, and now has 150% health and just charges into battle. That would make me question whether I care about the 66 damage.
Yo. Okay.
Can you imagine eating 5 of these?
Okay, hold up.
And then having like 500 points of health?
Although, so I know they don't stack.
Oh, they don't stack.
10 hit points specifically don't stack.
That's fair. That's absolutely
fair. But the question is, hold on, what is it called? Armor of Agathis.
Yes,
you gain temporary hit points. The question is, if I were to replace the temporary hit points from Armor of Agathis with this, then it would last so much longer, and Armor of Agathis would last so much longer. Because traditionally, this only gives you 5 temporary hit points for every level that you cast it, right? So at 5th level, it's 25, right? And that's a pretty decent amount.
That's okay.
But if you had 100...
But what's the level of the spell?
It's a 1st level spell.
So, yeah, you have to upcast it in order to get that high.
Exactly.
That's fair.
But like if you were to replace those temporary hit points with these temporary hit points, and the spell's technically still up, but it says that the spell ends whenever, this is while you have these hit points.
But again, they don't stack, so it's not like you would really
it would replace it. It would replace them, and I feel like once it replaces them, the spell would die.
But yeah, but why would you have both of these going at the same time? Like, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Specifically because if I could use these hit points as my Armor of Agathis temporary hit points, then the spell Armor of Agathis would last for a lot longer. Because
but why are we? I guess I'm just kind of confused on how you got to the point of combining them. Because I was just talking about like destroying one of your things to get temp HP.
So the way Armor of Agathis works is whenever somebody hits you, and you have these temporary hit points, they take damage.
Yes, but that's the Armor of Agathis, so that doesn't really apply to this.
But if I had 100, if I were able to use this to increase the amount of temporary hit points while Armor of Agathis is still active, then Armor of Agathis would last so much longer, do so much more damage, and so many more people would be taking damage from my Armor of Agathis. Because normally...
I know, but I guess I'm just lost on like where are we, like, how do we justify this specific boost? Like, how do we justify, because that's very weird, like it's a very specific combination of trying to turn this like this additional potential.
It's just because it's temp hit points, and they're both using temporary hit points. That's
I guess if the DM wanted to say that those could combine, I mean, that would work. You know what I mean? Like it would boost it. I guess it just depends on, do you think those two things could combine? Like, could you justify, and what order would you have to do them in? Would you have to cast Armor of Agathis first?
So the way I understand temporary hit points, and Pokeniner will probably know better than I will on this one, is any type of temporary hit points you gain, replace any you had before.
Right.
So,
yeah, so you can't
never stack. So which would mean that if I cast Armor of Agathis first, and then I cast this, then my Armor of Agathis temporary hit points would disappear, and these would appear.
That's how
I
read
Armor
the
of Agathis would end.
Technically, that's how I read it, because Armor of Agathis says these,
and I would agree
with
that.
But if you worded it that this increases your current temp HP to a certain level, then you could say, well, the wording doesn't replace, it says increases.
Yeah.
So again, even if you just wanted to make that
I'm just saying it would make that spell like so incredibly valuable.
But you could even do that if you wanted to tie that like Easter egg in. If you wanted to intend that to happen, you would just say that this new ability would say, upon consumption, you increase your level of temp HP to X number, even if it's at 0. So if you're at 0 temp HP, you go to 50. Right. But if you're at 20, you go to 50. But that doesn't mean it replaces, it means it increases. So if you have Armor Agathis on, and this thing says you increase your temp HP to 50, even if you're at 0, it would technically give Armor of Agathis a boost, not a replacement.
I've always thought that Armor of Agathis is one of the coolest spells, and I've always wanted it to pop off. But at lower levels, it's literally good for like one freaking hit.
Yeah, you really have to.
Which is cool, but like, all right.
Yeah.
Like, it's great on a Warlock because they always cast it at max level. So once they have access to 5th level spells, they always get 25 hit points. But unless you're fighting some weak dudes that are only doing like 5 point hit, like you get like 2 or 3 of these and that's it. So it would just be cool to see it last for a little bit longer. That's all I'm saying. And like,
yeah, I do think though that I really kind of like the idea of out of all the things that we've discussed, I think I like the idea most of a third capstone, and that one being like a kind of like a comeback kid kind of moment. And again, you don't want to make it a full, you come back to full hit points, because that means every player basically has a get out of jail free card. But something enough to where a TPK could be nearly.
Just imagine all of the people are down and the BBEG is like, I've won. And they all just like rise back up again.
They're all just, it's like one guy just rips off his necklace and starts eating it. The other guy takes off his ring and starts shoveling him in his mouth. He takes like 3 rings and the BBEG is like, what are you guys doing?
Candy?
And then they all just get up, wipe the blood off their mouth, and they're like, no, but we're back for round 2.
God bless America.
But yeah, so I think that would be my final suggestion, is a capstone that gives a bunch of life or some sort of like, buff bonus. I think that would be kind of cool to consume it and be able to get something. But other than that, outside of that, I think it's pretty solid. Again, I think the biggest change is the teleport, because otherwise we just said add the verbiage to make this make more sense. But really, I think the bare minimum is just changing it to the teleport as another option, just as another ability. So yeah, it's good though. The only thing I'm really going to take off of it is because of the way I would have to modify how they create things, and like, because again, things matter. So to me, it's too hard to say you can just create a ring and that's it. Like, if it's just a ring, that would be one thing. But if I'm going to do something like, with materials, I might consider like a different vet of materials.
Sure.
But otherwise, an artificer that can create magical jewelry is absolutely necessary. I think it's needed. I think this is nearly the way to go. So I'm probably going to give it an 8 because it gets the inspiration point too, because it's really taking this subclass in this general class in a direction that I think that has been missed. You know what I mean? Like, it's like there was an Iron Man artificer before there was a Tinkerer. I'm sorry, but that's a fucking shame. Like, that's embarrassing that we got Iron Man before actual magical Tinkerer.
I mean,
so
fair enough.
So it's
fair enough.
It was already a hard 7 just because it would just take a small amount of tinkering lore wise and a few of those adjustments to really make it work. But it's a shame that this had to come from homebrew and not from a core book, because really, where has this been? Where has this actually been?
For that,
and we were literally just last week talking about the history of enchanting and creating magical items.
Yep.
Here it is.
This is
since 3rd edition. Here's where it was. So yeah, congratulations, Pokeniner. I hope that I hope you enjoyed the review. I hope it made sense. I hope that you can take that and either make changes that will improve it, or make you feel like you already have it exactly how it should be. I mean, you already play tested it, which is always what we tell people after a review. If you want to take it to the next level after we reviewed it, play test. Again, I'd love to have been there during that playtest just to kind of see what everybody's response was. But at the end of the day, it's pretty solid. It's exactly what I want to see in an artificer, and I'm kind of disappointed that we haven't seen it until now.
Fair enough.
So I hope you
Fair
enjoyed
enough.
that. I hope that was pretty good. I mean, I enjoyed that. What is Pokeniner's new average?
His new average is 8. Got a
Is that-
decent average.
Out of how many submissions?
Let's go check. Pokeniner. Where are you at on my list?
I think that might be the highest average.
He has submitted 15 items, 9 of which have been reviewed already,
Damn.
and his average is 8.
Damn, that means a lot. Does he have any? Are there any 10s for Pokeniner?
I believe so. Let's take a
I'm trying. I'm I'm trying to think of either everything's a 7, 8, and 9, or there's got to be at least 2 10s.
I don't know if he's gotten under a 6.
No, that that's. I don't know, because I know Cosmic's been fighting to keep 7, and I think everybody else is averaging about 6. I don't know anybody else who's challenging Pokeniner right now for.
They have not gotten below a 7.
Pokeniner hasn't gotten below a 7.
8, 7, 8, 9, 9, 7, 8, 8.
But no 10s.
No 10s.
Wow.
But I got 2 9s.
Just everything's just on the cusp of being ready for High Point.
That's wild.
That's insane.
That's wild.
So is Pokeniner officially the highest average?
Let's.
I'm fairly
take a
sure
gander.
that is the highest average.
I have it here on my list. Yes. That is the highest.
out there.
Unless you count people that have only gotten 1 item rated and
I mean, you got to have at least 2 to have an average. Just
fair
saying.
enough.
You got to have
fair
at
enough.
least 2 to have an average. All right. Well, that was really fun. I hope Pokeniner enjoyed that.
I will say,
I hope
though,
everybody enjoyed that, actually. It was such a great build.
Cosmic has 25 items submitted and 23 reviewed. So
Wow, have we done 23?
we've done 23 at Cosmic.
I mean, granted, there were a couple episodes early on where we did it like more than one, and then there's some sets. But wow, 23. That has to be the record of the most reviewed for our audience. I don't
most
think,
reviewed 100%.
Yeah, I don't think anybody has that many items.
Other than
submitted or
that, I think
reviewed.
Pokeniner is tied with Hecate for 9 reviewed.
Wow,
That's
Hecate and
next.
Pokeniner have 9 reviewed.
And then Desmar Sama is 3rd with 7. Soul
7 reviewed. Wow.
Soul's just starting out. They've gotten 2. They've gotten 2 reviewed, and they have 1 waiting to be
So
reviewed.
3 total submissions.
3 total submissions.
So wow. For some reason, it's like Soul, you're around so often for these. It's hard to believe we've only done 2 of your own. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like
they haven't been slinging homebrew a lot, but they've definitely been here supporting, running us through.
It is just kind of crazy to
time.
think of just Soul being here so often, but we've only done 3. We only have 3 submissions, and then that's insane how many we've done. I mean, I know we've been just doing this forever now, almost 2 years, but still,
yeah,
that's crazy amount. Crazy. What's up? Soul wants to know what their average is. I think it's 6, right?
their average is actually 5.5.
5.5
for Soul right now.
I mean, it gotta keep more submissions, and I think
For sure.
2 is just so hard because I mean, just takes one
Right.
thing that's not quite managing.
And the last one, they said that was before they started really doing their homebrew and stuff like that. So it totally makes sense.
Yep. You gotta warm up to it. Technically, I have 2 in the queue because the challenge. Oh yes, we have the challenge with Hecate.
Yes, but are we going to do that? Are they going to get a homebrew rating that's going to go on our leaderboard?
No, because that's not what they want. They want a different
That's what I
type of
thought.
thing. So
That's
it's probably
what I
going to
thought.
be so. Just so I can actually update you both, since you both are here. We have been working on that. I have been trying to work on some admin stuff to get this done correctly. I have some really good ideas. I think you guys are really going to enjoy how we approach it and how we not only show it off and compare them, but I have some really fun ideas on how that entire stream is going to work out and how we're really going to challenge ourselves to make this more than just a homebrew review.
Sure.
But I was really, really hoping to tie in a special guest for that episode that would really bring it full circle. Unfortunately, I'm not getting responses anymore.
Okay.
It's kind of unfortunate. I was really hoping that we'd be able to work something out, because I know that they were expressed interest in possibly doing like a holiday
collabs
thing
and stuff like that.
And
Okay.
yeah, it's unfortunate that after a couple reach outs, I haven't gotten any responses. So I don't know if that's life. Life always comes first.
It's very possible. That's my initial assessment.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything. I can't believe, and I don't want to believe it's anything
other than that.
I don't think we've crossed any lines. I don't think there's been any issues between us and them. So I hope everything's cool. It is just kind of weird because it wasn't, wasn't like we talked a lot, but it wasn't nothing at all. Nothing. So
Sure.
I don't know how to.
Fair enough.
But you know what? That's how it goes in the collab space. You never know what's going on in people's lives. So
it's true, man.
I know I wanted to get that done this month, but we do have quite a few things going on over the weekend.
An extra stream. Yeah.
So most likely what's going to happen is sometime next month, either on a weekend, or we'll do an extra day during the week, and we'll do an entirely dedicated stream just for the comparison with some of the extras that that I'm going to add to that episode. Because again, I want to make it more than just a review of 2 items.
No, I got you.
I really want to have fun with this, and I think I have a really solid idea, but not that we need a third person. I just think it would really benefit us. So
true.
Hopefully I'll get a response back. But I'll keep everyone posted, but most likely we're going to push that off to next month, so we have a full day to do it.
Okay.
I would have done it this month otherwise, but I literally have plans every single weekend. Like literally this last weekend.
So hard.
I had family stuff with the Super Bowl. This coming weekend, I'm hosting some stuff over the weekend at my house. The following weekend, we have the community stream. And then the following weekend, I have plans to be on the weekend. So again, it's probably not going to work out for us, because I would like to do this on a weekend, so we have all day instead of trying to fit it in on a weeknight where we still only have a couple of hours. Because I really want to have fun with it. I don't want to rush it, and I want to see if it's a viable...
I think it'll be cool. Yeah, I agree.
Because if we could start doing things like this, where we do community challenges, where we put out a challenge, and then people do stuff like this, it would be so much fun to have a new series where we could do like community battles.
That would be so cool.
Yeah,
that would be really cool.
Where we could just do different challenges for like create a race, create
inspired
a
by
class,
Soul and Hecate.
Like create a dungeon room, create a trap. Like just imagine the different types of challenges we could do, and if we get a proper episode like format to how to like challenge it and how to compare it, I really think that could be a lot of fun.
I agree. I very much agree.
So we're gonna do a community poll to see which of the community viewers like more. Yes, let's do that. I'll do one the day we do the stream, a community poll to see what the viewers like, which one the viewers like more. So we'll do both. We'll do one at the day of the stream, on stream. So we'll do one via Twitch, because I can do a poll via Twitch.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Which one of the subclasses the viewers like more? Okay.
And I'll do one after stream in the Discord.
In Discord? Okay.
Yeah, so
we'll post them both in there.
Yeah. So we'll have one that's live for anybody watching, especially if anybody's new, they'll be able to participate in that. And then anybody that's part of the Discord, we will also do that as well. And we'll let people vote on that, and then we'll have, at least that part of the display of what it got in terms of its scoring. Kind of the idea. Could easily be turned into a campaign. People have to create something, incorporate into a campaign, watch the chaos unfold. Yeah. So eventually, yeah. Well, I'm playing around with some things and how we want to like actually display it all. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for new series. I'm excited for new stuff. It's really, I'm telling y'all, if somehow, some way, Kage and I get a shit ton more time on our hands, that links up.
God bless America.
I can't tell you how many more episodes we would be doing. Like, honestly, if it wasn't for my 9 to 5 just draining me so much, I would honestly be doing this 4 days a week.
You're not wrong at all. Like, if I had more mental energy,
if it wasn't for the fact that I went into the office twice a week and my job just took everything mentally from me, I would guarantee we would have already been doing Wednesdays as another stream day, because we'd probably be doing 2 homebrew reviews a week. And I'd probably be doing guaranteed game streams.
Right?
Like, I want to do more. It's just like, I want to grow the community. I want to do more now. Like, it's so funny watching old episodes and hearing us talk about how not serious we were about this. Like, just how it's like, yeah, we're just talking. It's a hobby. It's something to do. It's a way for us to hang out and record our thoughts. And then it got into this, hey, there's people watching us. Cool. Let's talk to them. To, hey, we do this twice a week and we've been doing it for a year and a half. Like, it's kind of just second nature and it's just part of our schedule. And now it's like, I want to turn this into something. Like, again, it's not going to be a full replacement. I can't get, I almost guarantee you, at least with D&D and not being on YouTube, there's no way I'm going to replace my day job.
Your 9 to 5.
But I'm now realizing that, like, we have something here. You know what I mean? It's no longer just two guys just chatting by ourselves. I think we have a chance here. And really, I think we've done a lot of upgrades. We figured out where we want to be with this. I think we're miles from where we used to be in terms of hosting, talking, interacting with chat, just speaking on camera. But at the same time, I think we're at that stage where we're comfortable enough to where I'm no longer tapped out with just 2 days. You know what I mean? Like 2 days used to be a lot for me. I was like, man, wow, we did a homebrew review. We did a history of, I need a weekend. And now I'm kind of like, all right,
what else we got?
Day? Like, when's the next day? And I have all these new like stream and series ideas, but we just don't have time,
man. Like, and to be honest, like, how many times has that been the killer of like actual D&D? You know, just people finding the time to actually get together and do the things that we wanted to do in the first place. You know, and so I that's one of the reasons why I appreciate we've been able to do this for so long so far. Like we've been making it happen. I always tell people, you make time for what's important for you, right?
Well, especially because you were the biggest question of whether or not this was gonna like be sustainable for you. You were like, I can do it right now, at least for the next month. I think that was what you first told me when I first invited you permanently, or at least was like, hey, do you want to like do this regularly? And you were like, for the next month, sure. After that, I can't guarantee anything, and that's literally a year and a half ago.
Yep.
Apparently, Souls got a job so we started about 6 months before they started their job. So they have like kind of a
that's wild.
The only way I remember it is because it just so happened, for no apparent reason, I started streaming on Cinco de Mayo. Because that just happened to be the day that I started. So I only remember it was Cinco de Mayo 2 years ago. So that's our
start date.
Our anniversary, apparently.
Cinco de Mayo.
Man, all that time way back, God, that was when like our first follower Bobicus. I was like, all that time.
Yeah, that's right.
How long did it take us? Like 3 weeks to first get like our first viewers?
Again, most of those first weeks were without me. Most of those first weeks were just you. I don't think I came in until like
your first episode was episode 5, so that was at least 2-3 weeks in.
Yeah,
but then you didn't really become a regular until like episode 12, I think. So yeah, I was going for at least a month or two. And then it just kept happening, man. Like just Mondays and Fridays just kept happening.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where it was like, initially this was just something we were doing, like you said, but after a while, like, again, it became a priority. It was like, all right, like, I'm for sure going to say yes to this over a lot of other things because, you know, like, imagine you start a D&D game with somebody, right? Like if you just started, you don't know how well it's going to work out. Like you might be like, yeah, sorry guys, I can't make it to the next set. But after a while, like you get invested. Like,
you're like, when is it? When
like, like we're doing this thing, right? Like we're part of this, right? Like we're together on this, right? Like, so
right.
It's definitely real. It's definitely real. So I totally.
I never thought about that. Misfit does kind of sound as a very similar to May the 5th. Misfit May the 5th. Like there's something to that.
I'm not mad at that.
We could probably do, if we ever do like official
my favorite
anniversary, birthday kind of things for the stream or for the brand, maybe we could tie that in somehow, like in the logo.
Yeah,
like
Misfit.
Yeah,
say it with a lisp.
Interesting. Okay. Or we'll spell like misfit, but put a 5 instead of the S.
There you go.
You know, something like that.
Nice,
like
very nice.
Misfit Day, and it's like the 5th of May. Oh, Misfit Day, May.
Misfit Day, the 5th of May.
Yeah, there you go.
That's cute as hell. I love that.
Oh, actually, that's how you would do it. You would say Misfit Day, or Misfit Day with the 5 as the S, and then down it would be 5th of May.
Oh, so yeah.
Misfit Day,
like a little crossword?
Yeah. Like
okay. Bet.
That's probably going to be a thing now. Misfit Day, 5th of May.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it a
lot. We're going to have to do that. We're going to make our own holiday, damn it.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, it's so crazy. I mean, year and a half, 84 followers, sitting strong at 8 subscribers. So we're 10% subscribe rate, which I don't care how big we are. A 10% subscribe rate is fucking huge in my opinion. Like it's not like it's like the best numbers out there, but to me it shows a healthy community. It's not just people came across us, followed us, and will pop in every now and again like we've seen. Like to have that 10% means that the people who do see us,
they want to be here.
Us, right?
And I think
that's a lot to me.
That is that's kind of like the metric I use when it comes to building a community. It's like people that want to be here, people that come back, and even the people that aren't subscribed but that are constantly here and interact, you know, like it is a good time. People that submit stuff, people that like want to like hear what we have to say.
Like,
yeah,
it's all beneficial to us, and it all makes it easier. I mean, literally, I've told you all this before on side streams. Y'all make it easier. You make it easy to show up. When I'm sitting here playing video games, or I don't know what to do with my afternoon after work, and I'm like, you know what? I don't really want to play video games by myself because that's not productive. The fact that I know I can turn it on and turn on the stream and have someone to chat to, and I'm not just chatting to dead air anymore. Like, that matters. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of cool. Not in an ego way to be like, yeah, people care what I think and want, like, but the simple fact of like, there are people out there that are interested. Like, you go live and people are like, what are you doing? Like, there's just something about that just inspires me to want to do more, because I want to feed that curiosity. Like, if people honestly want to know what we're doing, like when I did, like, I was so surprised, like how many people enjoyed my cooking stream the other day. It was so random.
Dude, everybody got into that. The Discord blew up with all these freaking delicious ass foods and shit. I'm like,
everybody was like talking about what they've been making, and that's the kind of stuff I love. And it's like, it's not what I expected.
It stirs inspiration.
Yeah, and it's just not what I expected from this. I kind of expected that you needed to stay on brand, stay on topic, you know, be consistent. But it is kind of nice that it doesn't, like, I know in the overall grand scheme you want to stay consistent for the overall like audience. But there's always been a thing I've understood about like really successful people is that once you have a core audience, like once you have a large enough audience, it will divide itself into those that are there for what they know you for and those that are there for you.
And honestly, you can like eventually, once we get to that place, like imagine all those special streams are just for subscribers.
Exactly.
Right? Just for the people that want to be around, just for the people that want us, and that community will be big enough that they'll be bigger than the streams we have now.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And that's where I'm glad that we have already that, because it allows us to experiment more freely. Because I know that a lot of people, if their entire audience is based around what they represent, like if our entire audience was purely based around D&D, we wouldn't be able to experiment as much. That cooking stream would have been a failure. You know, no one would watch my game streams. But the simple fact is, if we get to a point to where, like at this rate, if we get to 1,000 followers, that means that if we want to experiment, there's a chance we're going to have 80 people showing up to an experiment. That's
sure.
That'll be more, if we go into a random category, that'll be one of the top 10 viewers. Like, we could literally go into a brand new category and be at the top 10 simply by our core following, if these numbers are to be believed, right? And that's what I look at is, it's not that we want to be a variety. It's not that we want to try new things, but at some point we're going to have to try new things. And it's only going to be that core audience that cares about us and want to see us do stuff that's going to help it succeed, right? Because if everyone's only ever here for D&D, the moment we go live in the tavern, if it's not D&D themed, we're over, right? If I change it to just chatting, no one's going to watch because they're only here for D&D, right?
Right.
But if we got people who care about Kage, who care about Vortex, who care about our thoughts and just in general the entertainment that we bring, then it doesn't matter, right? Like, we can just keep expanding.
Very much so.
And we've already talked about the future of Misfit Gamer Studios and how we plan to expand it if it gets that big. Not doing anything about it because we don't expect it to happen that fast, but hey,
but still, you know,
we're thinking about it. That's all that matters. Oh, thank you, Soul. I'm glad that we make it easy for you guys, and I'm glad that you find something of value here. I mean, it's so funny watching streamers that I really look up to. You watch them with, thousands of viewers and stuff, and you see how they react to people, and you see them say stuff like that, right? Where people will be like, hey, like you'll see it in chat where people will be like, hey, you've made my day. Like, I was having a really crappy day and your streams really help. Like, they'll like donate like $2 so they could like have it say it on stream.
Yeah.
And you see the big streamers and you know that they hear it a lot, but you could tell that some streamers who are just like, oh yeah, thanks for the money. And
they just say
who are like, honestly, like, oh, like, thanks. Like, I'm sorry you're having a bad day. Like, I really hope that, like, you could tell they're genuinely like, it's not the money that they're reacting to.
These are my people.
Yeah. They're actually reacting to the fact that someone said you made my day better, not here's money. Right? Like, like, and that's to me where I want to be. And that's why it's like, it's crazy. Like, I know I've only been doing this 2 years, and I know I'm constantly trying to think about getting better, and I value what we say now. Like, I remember when I first started, I felt like I was on like that proving phase of I have to prove myself. Now I really have the confidence that we have value in the D&D space, but it's not something I expect to get on here and make someone's day better. You know what I mean? Like, I can get that if those that like D&D will listen to our podcast and be like, oh, this is kind of cool and have some fun ideas. But yeah, that it's a foreign concept to me to come on here and be like, wow, like someone could have been having a shit day. And me getting mad at fucking
4th edition.
Yeah, just me getting mad at the dumbest shit, like, you know, how reactions are used for delayed calls is gonna make someone's day better. Like, it's just, I love that, but it's such a weird foreign concept to me that I don't know. I'm just gonna ride that. I'm just gonna take that as a compliment, and I'm going to keep on doing it because that's awesome.
As you should. You should.
Oh, and Hecate's cooking here too, so even better that it's working. But no, I really do appreciate that, Soul. Thank you, and I'm glad that it works for you. I'm glad that we can make your day better, regardless of what it is, whether it's our arguments, our tangents, our ideas, or just simply just watching other people live. I know sometimes it's easier just to not worry about your own life, just watching somebody else go through theirs.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I don't know what
it'd be like that sometimes,
but I'm happy that we're here for you. I hope that we can continue to do that for more and more people, because that would be great.
100%.
You know,
truly.
Like, I know that there are some philanthropic people out there who that's what they strive about. Like, their whole goal is just to make people's day better. I'll be honest, I wish I was that nice. Like, I wish my entire motivation getting on camera was just feeding off of the idea that someone's day got better. I wish I was that nice. I mean, it's a good feeling, but I'm gonna say it's not what puts me in this chair every day.
Here's the deal. The way I look at something like that is the idea of when you're on an airplane, put on your own mask first. Like, you do want to make sure you are taking care of yourself. So doing something strictly for the people around you can be a very slippery slope. Like, I used to live that life back in the day. A lot of my actions were based upon the people. But if you're doing something that you genuinely love, and you do it in a way that makes other people's, like, that is critical. Yeah. Because then it is going to bring you life while it's bringing them life. And it is way more self-sustainable that way, where you can keep on doing the thing that actually shows these people.
It's the mutual benefit.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, neither person's taking, both sides are giving, and both sides receiving. Because that's the biggest thing. Neither side's taking, but both sides are receiving. How about that?
Yeah.
That's the key takeaway from that, from what you just said. So yeah, I'm glad that we can do that. That's why I enjoy small view streams, a little bit more engaged than compared to like some of the bigger people. It means a lot more to small streamers it means a lot more to small streamers. Yeah, it really does.
It really does.
Like, a lot of the big streamers, I think, lose. I mean, obviously it's hard to interact with 10,000 people or even 1,000 people that are in your chat, you know what I mean? But there is a loss of community when you get so big. Like, you have a follow, like, I think we're in the stage of community. We're not in the stage of a following. I think you turn from a community into a following, but I think that's typically when the person that started it gets detached. Because you can have a huge community, but you can also have a huge following. You can have a small following, but I don't think we have a following. I think we have a community, right?
Sure.
We are a lot more engaged. There's more back and forth, like community streams, homebrew review, questions from chat, the Discord. The Discord isn't just there to let you guys know when we go live. We're in the Discord. We chat, we may not be in there every day. We're not necessarily hanging out in there, but we're in there. We see your posts. We respond to your posts, right? I know tons of Discords with streamers that I follow that I never see them react to anything. I only see their updates that look like bots. Like, I don't ever see them interact in their Discord.
In the Discord. Yeah.
The only time I see them online is when they're live on stream, right? Whereas with us, you guys see when I'm playing Rocket League. You guys can hit me up and be like, are you streaming tonight? And I love that shit. If I'm playing a game and someone hits me up on Discord, be like, why aren't you streaming? That gets me motivated to turn the camera on. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So that's what I would love. Like, I hope that at the end of the day, we always maintain a community and not a following. I know it'll be hard. I know at some point it's very difficult, but I know it's doable. And what really just keeps that in mind is making sure that we stay engaged with the community and with the people, but also make sure that the people stay engaged with us. I don't just want people showing up to the stream. I want people in Discord putting in submissions. I want people in the game chat suggesting games they want to see me play. I want to see people in home brewing talking to each other. You know, I want to see games being posted on the bulletin board because people are short, you know, a player and they want something, right? Or they're looking for a new DM. Like, sure. I want to facilitate those kind of conversations and get people to find each other and talk about stuff. I mean, that's, you know, again, the whole motto of thinking beyond the book, right? We don't want people to just have one mindset. We want people to grow and to be able to have a place that they can express their own ideas freely, and then be encouraged that their ideas, while may not be agreeable, aren't wrong. Like, that's the biggest thing, right? You don't have to agree with everything people say, but it's not about being right and wrong. It's just about, okay, that's how you do it.
Understanding what you want out of it.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it's really great to hear that, because there are times where I'm just like, I do feel like our growth, not plateaued, but we kind of hit I feel like we're in a weird lull where we're hitting our stride. We're in a good position, but we don't have a lot of growth. Like, we don't have a lot of outlets to get new people at this point, right?
Sure.
And until we do something big, like make some YouTube content or anything else like that, I think we might be here for a little bit, which is fine. Lets us hit our groove a little bit more.
There's definitely ebbs and flows, that's for sure.
But yeah, it's gotten to me a couple times where, you know, I look at it and I'm just like, you know, we were going from like,
where everybody at?
I mean, I feel like we went from like 0 to 10 very slowly. We went from 10 to 50 like out of nowhere. And then like the last 50 to 80 has just been pretty steady. But you know what I mean? Sure. Like, there was a big spike like last year where we were getting like literally like 2 followers almost every stream. Like, it was like for a month there, we were just getting like so many. And now it's kind of like 1 a month. That's not bad.
But it's not what it was.
But it does get to you after a while. You know what I mean? You're like, shouldn't I be getting better? Shouldn't all of these numbers be getting better? Why isn't that one? But I also understand that it's discoverability. Twitch sucks at discoverability, and I should be thankful that we even got as many followers as we did in such a category that's literally dominated by like 4 people. You know what I mean?
I will say, I really think that though the time we start getting some edited content, we get more YouTube content, we get more people searching our name and like us popping up when they just search for D&D stuff. Like, yeah. I really think that will make a big difference, right? And then people, you know, especially if those videos always have like, hey, catch us on Twitch Mondays, whatever, like, when people know, because it's happened to me before where I've seen somebody and I'm like, oh, let me go see where they're at on Twitch. Let me see if I can follow them. Let me see if I can, you know, see where they're at. So I totally think that will definitely happen for us. You know, like you said, we're slowly moving through. Like, I feel like there might sometimes be like plateaus that you hit until you like get over like a certain hurdle. Like in that game that you and I were talking about before stream, that
Balatro.
Yeah, Balatro. Oh, yeah. Like there's certain
curve.
Elements like you can do really good up until this point with a certain level of understanding, but like you got to like get this certain skill set in order to break past a certain threshold or whatever the case may be. And so who knows if that's where we're at or whatever the case may be, but I really do feel like we're going in the right direction.
I do
for
too.
Sure.
I have no more doubts. Like I don't have any more doubts that I used to. And even though things get to me, I still know, like I'm not wavering on what I want to do with this. Again, I only want to do more. Before, I thought I was barely going to be able to handle doing this twice a week. Now I can't wait till I have time to do more. That's where I'm at right now. I'm excited to do more because of the community, because of the things that we're doing. Like, it's fun, but y'all make it easier. Y'all make it so much more fun being there, chatting with us and pushing us along. You know, and just keeping us, keeping us engaged. Because again, I could be sitting here doing this twice a week to an audience of 500 people. And if none of them were talking, but watching and subbing, this wouldn't be as rewarding. I could sit here and be making $1,000 a month on the side, just having this same conversation with Kage with absolutely zero chat. And it wouldn't be as nice.
It would not be the same, not nearly. Because I feel like a lot of what we do is is for them, right? And it's
Mhm.
like when you build something for somebody and it's appreciated, like I think that's what the interaction demonstrates. Is it's like, oh, you guys are.
It's the fundamental tenet of D&D, collaborative. The
Yes.
first thing we always say when we describe
Yes.
D&D, we say collaborative storytelling. It's the first word we always use is collaborative. And that's the idea of this stream, right? How many streams are presentative or
Sure.
representative, right? You sit there and you watch them do something. Like most D&D streams are presentative. You sit and you watch people do things, but not necessarily with or for you, right? You watch a gaming group play their game with a DM DMing for them,
Sure.
right? Even though some of them are good at responding to chat, there's a big difference between, I think, watching something like an audience member, like a movie, and being a part of it, like a comedy show, right? Like you could be in a live theater watching actors, and technically they can interact with the audience, but that's different than an interactive comedy show, like a comedy magic show.
Sure.
That's constantly getting the audience involved. And that's kind of, I feel like, where I would like to be. I want to be on the magic comedy show more than I want to be the live play or theater.
Got you.
You know what I mean? I think that's a nice little analogy.
I get that.
And yes, big shout out to Big Dungeon Energy for help for rating us. That's
That's
definitely a big benefit. And that's one of the things I honestly, y'all, if you've noticed, I hope you haven't noticed, but if you have, it's not lost on me either. I'm just very terrible at reminding myself, and we're working it into our process. But speaking of which, again, now that I'm taking things more seriously, and now that we are growing, and that I do want to make the best out of this entire community, we do need to get better at raiding. We really need to get better. I don't want to raid just anybody.
Sure.
The thing is, like, I love the fact that Big Dungeon raided us. I would never want to say that raiding random people is a problem. But I'm also just aware that I would prefer to at least know where I'm taking people than just literally just choosing one from a dartboard. Because honestly, it does kind of suck if you get it happened to us where we got raided by like 20 people once, and then literally instantaneously it went down to 3.
Yeah.
Now those 3, 2 of them followed and one of them chatted, which is totally cool. But it does kind of suck when you bring everybody in and everyone immediately is like, nah, I'm out. You know what I mean? Like, because you don't know, was it just that they were bouncing from the stream, or did they bounce because they saw what you were doing and they're like, nah, I don't want this.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to do that to my audience where I bring them somewhere and they're like, oh, no, I was hoping that I could just listen to this, right? But, again, if I could drop them off to someone like Mind's Eye.
Yeah.
So I mean, I know that I like him on the background. If I could drop you all off there, if you leave, that's cool. But at least, I'm not going to be worried. It's not it's like a branding thing. It's not something that I'm going to be worried about sending you over to, right?
Sure. No, I get that.
So I'm a little bit hesitant just because I overthink things, but
I've got a few people on my list that if I ever see streaming, I'll do my best to let you know.
And I'm glad you have a couple extras, because I got Big Dungeon, I got Mind's Eye, there's Baba Kiss, there's a couple people that I would not mind raiding over to. It's you never know what people are doing, and I'm weird about that. You know what I mean? I'm awkward, but I know it's good. I know, like, look, we wouldn't have ever met Big Dungeon if she didn't raid us. We wouldn't have gotten Soul if she didn't raid us. Like, there's benefits there to the community at large, but I've also seen it happen to us where we've literally been raided by just a random other channel, and then that was it. We've never had any other interaction with them or their followers ever again. And that's also kind of weird. You know what I mean? I'd much rather, if I raid someone, I'd much rather at least have an idea that they're good and then raid them again later and actually build up a rapport, get a follow back, maybe do a raid back. Not for it. Not like I'm only going to raid someone who raids me back.
Sure.
But like, it is part of the whole community. It is part of the larger Twitch ideology, is that you have to show love to get love, right? And no one's going to know who we are. No one's going to hear Misfit Gamer Studios unless, we do stuff like that, unless other people are talking about us, unless I try to go into other chats. I'm not huge on hanging out on TikTok if I'm not streaming.
Yeah.
I'll watch it, but I'm not used to like diving in. Blackwater. That was the one that was our biggest raid. It's actually so funny. You can tell the day I got raided based on the stats. Like, I can look at our history.
And you just see a random spike.
There is a single day that is our best viewing day, and it's the day Blackwater raided us with like 40, 50 people.
That's wild.
It's so hilarious that I can look at all our stats. I'm like, okay, you can see our slight growth. Whoop! Okay, there's our slight growth. And it's just that one day we got like a massive amount, but that was just because he had like, I think they had like 60 people when they raided, but only like 40 actually like came in through like the thing. So, I know that, yeah, you did suggest us. I think the time that we were going to do it, the one time we could have raided Blackwater, I want to say we've raided them once, but I think
we have raided them one time.
I think there was a second time we decided not to because Mind's Eye was there and they obviously had like way more viewers and we only had like 3.
Yeah.
So I wanted to show the love more to Mind's Eye.
They are raiding tonight if you wanna try
Blackwater.
Blackwater, yeah.
We might as well raid out to them. It's not going to be a big thing, but I guess we can. I got to figure out exactly how to raid because I know that if I raid over, I have to like be wary of when I stop the stream because technically I guess we're still streaming when I raid over. So even though Twitch is over, YouTube is still technically like recording.
Oh, so they see
they see
the raid?
Well, they see the raid, but then like our screen just kind of goes black, I guess. I don't know. It's very weird. I need to figure it out a little bit more. But anyway, I know we've been just chatting and BSing. Probably time for us to go. So I think we'll leave it there. I'm always talking about you guys out in public and my friends since y'all are really chill. Well, thank you so much. Well, if you do bring anybody else, we'll be, obviously happy to have them. Otherwise, if it's just you, that's totally fine. We're totally cool hanging out and just chilling with you. We love
the vibes.
But I think that's going to be us for the rest of the day. Thank you all so much for hanging out and enjoying the stream. I don't know if Pokeniner's still around, but hopefully they enjoyed the stream when they caught it. And that's how Nugget's here. Yeah, absolutely. I still don't know how y'all know each other, but that's Nugget's awesome in their own way.
And thank you to Carts for the sub earlier too.
Yes, Cart, thank you. Amazing for 6 months. That I still don't even know what to say to that. Like
that's wild.
That's so one of those things I still don't know if I deserve, but hey, I'll take it for right now. Hecate wants to know what's on the docket for next week.
Next week is actually going to be Cart's first submission. So I'm working on getting that one put together. It'll definitely be ready by Monday next week.
There we go.
But if I'm not mistaken, so let me look real quick. It says I haven't read through the whole thing. There's a lot of information here. So it feels like it's hard to believe that this is a race because there's so much information
so
here.
Like some like deep lore and backstory.
But it's called Tarrasque-born. And that makes me feel like it's a race.
That's the one that that's the one that Cart submitted. Okay, I remember them talking about this in chat.
Who knows?
Yes, Tarrasque-born. I am so ready for this. Okay, Tarrasque-born. I totally forgot about that. A Tarrasque-born. Yes, that's gonna be next week. That's gonna be a hell of a starting submission. Because I'm like, not only is that gonna be really amazing, but that's also gonna be a hard sell. Like you better be coming like, guns blazing with that one. Like it better come out swinging. That deserves a good score.
Yeah.
So yes, so join us next Monday for the Tarrasque-born, a fresh submission from Carts. Otherwise, this Friday, I don't know, do I want to do another history of this Friday? Like history ofs are fine. I kind of feel like I don't want to do them like back to back anymore. I don't want to do them 2 Fridays in a row.
Okay. We can always.
What else? Like
we can always chat with chat. We can always. Do
we have anything? Let me check the Discord subjects real quick. It does sound absolutely crazy. I am so excited to do that. Let me check our to-do list and let me see if there's any like stream ideas that we haven't covered yet. We did talk about doing for the ADMG. We did talk about doing modified crit options. So we could develop those ideas more. Like when you crit, you can do either different or additional actions or features. Either as a feat or adding to subclasses, things like being able to drag, damage, debuff them, disarm them. Like basically instead of just get the default crit,
right.
being
Okay.
able to say, instead of doing double damage, I really want to like disarm him, or I want to knock him prone, or I want to drag him 10 feet.
Sure.
Like basically the idea that changing crit into something more meaningful than just like being able to really affect the battle somehow, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, same thing with opportunity attacks. Like instead of just straight up being able to damage someone, being able to shove them and then potentially knocking them prone.
Yeah.
Or tripping them, you know, either shove or trip them so they're like off balance or like lose movement, something like that.
Okay.
Like, yeah, I would really, we could talk about that. Weapons versus focuses. What was that supposed to be? That's all I have on here is weapons versus focuses.
I don't remember specifically what the versus is, but you know, you have casters that use focuses, you have melees that use weapons. Like maybe it's just like how they scale, how they balance, how like if you got a +1 weapon versus a +1 focus, like what it gives you, what it doesn't. Like I mean, there might be something to it.
Ooh. You know, another series that we talked about before that we haven't tried yet, which I don't know if we'd be able to do by this Friday because there's not enough people in chat right now to really generate the butts. Excuse me. But I want to do image to item. I want to do this challenge where chat gives us like an image, whether it's AI generated or they find it online.
Oh.
And we just off the item alone,
Yeah.
we have to sit there and build out what it is, what it can do. I like that. I like that for just a generalized
I really
series.
do.
And it's kind of not enough to be a community stream because we probably have to do a lot. So I feel like that could be a fun Friday option.
I agree.
So we
I
might
agree.
try that. Let's see. Most of these are just more like project ideas. We have so many ideas for the ADMG, which is good. I don't know. Maybe it will be just a collaborative like build idea. Maybe we'll go over just a couple of those ideas and just tweak them on stream. I don't know. Maybe we'll just do another chatting with chat.
I mean, if you want, we can experiment with it and I can come up with a picture for us. Or you can come up with a picture for us and we could just go off of that. Or maybe we both bring a picture to the table and we decide which one to create an item from.
Image to creature instead of image to item. Problem with image to creature though is like, I mean, it could work the same way, you know, but I feel like item could be more like creative because based on what it looks like and your interpretation of like what that color means. Is it a gem? Is it a metal? Whereas like with a creature, like if it's got claws, you know, it's gonna have a claw attack. If it's got teeth, it's gonna have a bite attack. Like maybe you could say like, well, it's muscly, so it looks like it has a large jump. Like, you know what I mean? Like it might be a more difficult to creatively look at a creature and think of all the things it could do versus an item, but maybe not. You know what I mean? I just feel like a creature might be shoehorned a little bit too much based on its physical characteristics being too on the nose.
I feel like ooh, we do have a Discord with a bunch of like pictures and stuff like that. For people to like, maybe we could just have like that be like our submissions and we'll just go through there and find ones
and that's
that
what I was
like
thinking, like
inspire us or something.
And that's what I mean. Like, I don't think we have enough time to really get enough like
traction on that.
submissions.
No, I
so I was
feel
thinking maybe over time we can do that. Maybe we'll try to do it live. Like maybe anybody in chat this Friday, we'll just say, hey, go find an image and we'll do it. You know, we'll do a couple. Maybe we'll just do like a development stream where we just like build a couple things. Because again, people have talked about that before, where we've been asked to do more like stuff on stream, like show how we build things, show how we go through things.
That's true.
Maybe we should just do that, where we can just do a couple builds. I mean, we have a couple of these, you know, line items that won't take very long, like, you know, the crit options, the class features, those rally cries. That could be an entire thing that we do, because that's going to be for the ADMG. But we could do some of the work here. We can talk about it, get active feedback, and then we can, you know, develop that into the ADMG.
I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that at all.
Maybe that's what it'll be. Maybe it'll be a development. So anybody still in chat, keep an eye out. If you have any items or if you see any good images that you would like to see created into an item mechanically, keep them in mind for this Friday, and maybe we should figure it out. We should definitely turn Sonic the Hedgehog into a weapon item.
Weapon item?
Turn him into a weapon or item.
I mean, he could be his own creature. That
I mean,
sounds
familiar. Like,
that sounds like a pop culture build. That's what that sounds like.
yeah,
That sounds like a pop culture build because Sonic's feats are wild.
I mean, Sonic does have quite a bit. I mean, that or yeah, I would say probably either a character or like a familiar. Like you could go both directions.
Sure, I can see either way.
Yeah, okay. So we'll try to think about that.
Artifacts level.
Keep in mind if you find any images out there that you would like us to tinker with, let us know by this Friday, or just keep them on hand and we'll ask this Friday, and then we'll just get those submissions live, and then we'll do them. So that way we won't have to think. Because again, I don't like thinking about things ahead of time.
Sure.
Because I come up with all my best ideas, and then I have to remember them instead of coming up with them. So
yeah.
That's how my brain works. My brain, if you show me something and I get creative about it, you could literally ask me the next day, and I will not give you like I might give you some of the same ideas, but I will not give you a perfect guaranteed comparison, right? Which is again kind of why I like to do the reviews fresh, because A, I'm going to say less if I reviewed it and had all those ideas beforehand, but B, it is kind of sometimes dynamic. Sometimes those are based on, you know, how we're feeling and the rest of the conversation, you know what I mean? So they won't always be had the same. You know, you won't always come to the same conclusion. So I kind of like doing that. So it's very dynamic and in the moment instead of premeditated and scripted.
Agreed. I'm not mad at that.
What about the 10 rings from the MCU?
That's a good item.
I could see that.
That's a good item.
Yeah,
we can mess with that.
That might be more like, see, and again, pop culture builds doesn't have to be characters.
That is true. Although I will say pop culture builds is specifically building a character sheet thus far. But I mean, so if we're gonna homebrew an item, I don't know if that would be a different segment.
But I mean, it's still gonna be a pop culture build though, because it is like that is iconic to that, like that character is the superhero.
Everything we'd be doing is homebrew. Specifically in pop culture builds, we try to find things as close to already existing 5th edition.
But again, a magical item can have pre-existing spells. We can get all the same effects. Just
so is that what we're trying to do though? Are we just trying to take 5th edition spells that will do the same thing and put it into an item?
That's exactly what pop culture build is.
That's what I'm asking.
We're taking like, what 5th edition is.
What it sounded like with the 10 rings is like we're gonna homebrew an item, not we're gonna take a bunch of spells and put it into an item.
But see, if you're gonna base off the 10 rings, then you're basing it off the item, not an image, right? Because again, if you show me the 10 rings, I'm gonna know what they are. And
right, but that's why we.
That's what I'm saying. Like that would be more of the pop culture build is like, you know, like imagine, dude, like imagine making the sword from Thundercats as a pop culture build.
Okay.
So it's like it's a short sword that can become a long sword, so it has to be able to like morph.
Okay.
It can also give you clairvoyance because remember he can look through it and see shit.
Okay.
So it's like it would have like the clairvoyance spell, it would have like the enlarged spell, something like that. You would basically take the item, see what it can do, and find out a way to do it in D&D.
But that's the thing, is only using what already exists in D&D. What already exists like in canon.
As best we can. Like just like with pop culture builds, if we have to shift it, we will. But that would be kind of cool for pop culture builds, because I do like the idea of just showing me a random image and me trying to figure it out.
I do like that too.
But imagine someone says, I want the Thundercat sword in my D&D game. How does it work? That's kind of a cool concept too. So maybe I agree. Maybe that's a different type of pop culture build. Maybe if we get a couple more pop culture build, or maybe we just wait for people, like maybe we suggest that and people put that in the thread, because we have the thread in Discord for new ideas.
Yes.
So maybe we just start to feed people these suggestions, and then they can give us specifics. Because I don't think pop culture builds has to end with a class. You know, yeah. I don't think
as long as you and I understand what the standard is that we're approaching, I got no problems with that. That makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, and I mean, and the same thing would work too. We wouldn't really make a roadmap because there wouldn't really be a building block to the item. But we could make two different versions: the D&D specific version and the icon version, in case there's like extra things we had to add to it. Sure. Kind of like the vampiric bite. But we didn't do it because we only used the non-eating aspect of it.
Exactly.
So yeah. I like that. Ooh, the One Ring.
It's definitely cursed.
I mean, it's a cursed item that grants you what? Invisibility? Like grants the wearer invisibility? Like
there's got to be more to it than that, though. With all the power, like it's sentient.
It's sentient. It is cursed. Honestly, you could even do it to where it's either every race or your alignment changes what it does to you. So you could have a whole table where it's based on the alignment or your race. I mean, you wouldn't want to for 5th edition, but you could have a lot of fun with it. Basically be like, if you're an elf of this alignment, this is what happens. But if you're an elf of this alignment, this happens. So you could, you know what I mean? Like, because again, think about it. Like you have Frodo who goes invisible, but then you have
Eowyn?
No, the Gollum. But then you have Gollum, who was also a hobbit.
Yeah.
And look what happened when he was evil. So one gets decrepit and insane, but the other one.
But isn't that just because? I swear that was just because of how long he had it.
Well, yeah, it was. But that's the idea. Is like how it affects you long term.
Yeah.
So there could be a lot of interesting ways you could do that. Again, my mind always goes to the more complicated because it's more story enriching. But 5th edition doesn't like that shit. 5th edition wants simple, straightforward, how does everybody use it kind of thing. But I think making it even just as simple as a good, neutral, evil could even be, or like it has 2. So if you're good, neutral, evil, it has 1 effect, or 1 of 3 effects. And then if you're lawful, neutral, or chaotic, it has another, like,
Interesting.
Because I don't know enough about all of the ways the One Ring has been used to know how many versions we need. I know that it does different things for different people, but I don't know how many things it can actually do.
Right.
So that would be where we would have to do it. So yeah, throw those in chat, y'all. If you have an idea for a pop culture item, not just a character, but a pop culture item, I'd be willing to test that out to see if we can do that during a pop culture build. Equally as a player. I think the characters are better. I think that's the bread and butter of pop culture builds, but I wouldn't mind trying to do an item or 2.
100%. I'm not mad either.
It would be cool if it contains an evil soul that wants to take over the user who wears it. That's usually how I like to do my cursed items, especially the more powerful ones, is they're always trying to basically take over your control or swap your body. That's
fair enough.
At least in a high point, that's usually cursed items of enough power are usually trying to corrupt you so you do their bidding, or it's trying to trick you into basically swapping spaces, which if it's strong enough and smart enough, it can easily trick you into doing.
Very true. Very true.
So sentient items aren't always there for your benefit. I'm just saying. What do you think?
100% not. Like, who said this?
Like, especially when you find an item that has a consciousness and it was buried in ruins for the last 1,000 years. Who the fuck was keeping that consciousness company? Do you really think that it's in its right mind when you pick it up and it's like, oh, hello, child. Of course I'll heal you. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's one of those things where it's far too often overlooked, the idea of like what a sentient item is. Because how many times, it's so easy, like, oh, the ruins that no one's been to for thousands of years, and you find this sentient +2 sword, and it's basically all benevolent and lawful and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that thing has sat there for 1,000 years alone. I don't care if it is lawful good, that thing is not normal. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying, like, on a mental level, it doesn't have to be insane, but you got to imagine that it doesn't have the
necessarily the most best intentions
or just the way to socialize. You know what I mean? It's just, there's so many better ways that I prefer doing sentient items and how they interact with people, because I like to take into account what has it been going through. A sentient item that's gone from hand to hand to hand versus one that stayed in the family and has been passed down through generations versus one that's been buried after a couple thousand years should all have different personalities based on that lifestyle. You know what I mean? One passed down from family to family could be like a butler. Whether it's, a very helpful butler who's very helpful and who loves that family and who will do anything for that family, or it could be resentful. It can hate that family. You know what I mean? But that's, I think, kind of an important aspect other than just saying it's sentient and it will do stuff for you. I think its history is just as important and can be more fun when trying to figure out what kind of personality.
Right.
Like, imagine just giving them an item and it's like a low level, doesn't do a whole lot for them, but imagine it's sentient and it's like a tiny little, like, it gives you a +1 or maybe gives you like a +1 to your AC, nothing major, but it's the absolute most grateful personality ever. Like, you pick it up and you speak to it. They're like, I'm sorry. Did you want me to say yes? Did you want me to say hello? I'm sorry, I didn't greet you first. what's your name? I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself. And it's like, dude, it's fine. Like, what are you? I'm like, well, I'm a ring of +1. I will always give you a +1 every time. No, you don't even have to ask. I will always give it to you. Like, I wasn't right. Just imagine it's so abused that it's literally like every time you speak to it, it acts like you're about to yell at it. And it's just always happy to be there and help you, but it's not used to your kindness. You're like, hey, like you're in the middle of battle and someone misses by 1 AC and you're like, oh, thanks, ring. And it's like, you're welcome. You know what I mean? Like, you make it sound so pathetic.
That's wild.
Like, no one thinks about that shit, in my opinion. I don't know a lot of DMs who have gone that far to think like, what's the personality? What has it gone through? They just think, well, here's the item and it's either going to be good or evil. I feel like that's the most majority that I've gotten experience with.
Sure.
Is it's either default, it's just the good, or it's like the default asshole. But yeah. So one of the things I like to do, items in my mind, item has my mind flowing, especially since I was watching Mandalorian. Oh, okay. One that popped in my head is the ninja items from Naruto that have treasure tools of 6 paths. I don't know enough about Naruto, so I don't know what that means.
I'm not sure either.
Never watched it, so we'll have to look that one up. But yeah, throw those in the pop culture build thread, and we will play around with those. I like that idea. Anyway, we were supposed to go like 20 minutes ago, so we're gonna go now. Thank you all for keeping us online and for chatting with us. You all are amazing. We will be back on Friday with some small builds. Maybe we'll just do some community builds on Friday.
Cool.
And then on Monday we have Cart's first item, so we will be very excited to go over that. And as always, if you see me gaming, come in, say hi, give me some love, because I'm just going to be hanging out, being casual, doing some behind the scenes stuff. And of course, you can always catch Kage here on Tuesdays doing development and coding work. So make sure that you go catch him live on Twitch as well. We will both post in the Discord whenever we're live. So he has his coding channel, I have a gaming channel, and then of course we have the normal live channel when we are. So I hope you all enjoyed everything. I hope you guys had a fantastic weekend, and I hope you guys have a fantastic week ahead of you. We'll be back on Friday, but until then, I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Cheers.